Good evening and welcome to the 21st episode of your favorite Stat Check podcast's host's favorite Stat Check podcast. It is time for episode 21 of Take All Comers, a Crisis Carol Slaaneshmas 2024, starting on time for the first time in the history of the network. We have a show arriving at precisely the time that it was scheduled some number of minutes previously. I'm one of your hosts, Tyler Bortel, and I'm joined by
Lukas Troller.
And today we have a very special guest joining us today for the first time. Welcome to the Stat Check Network, Mr.
Donald Plummer.
Hell yeah. Welcome in, Donald. Well, we're going to be talking today about a sweet event, one of the pinnacle events of the Pacific Northwest Warhammer 40K singles season. That is, of course, Merry Slaaneshmas. Took place just about a week ago. Mr. Donald here, spoiler alert, did particularly well at it, so we're excited to hear about him and his Tau, as well as Lukas and his world leaders. But we do also acknowledge that we are deep in the midst of Grotmas. There was a slate this week, and we'll cover all of that on the tail end as well. So stick around if you want to hear our hottest takes on the wild world of Warhammer as it is rapidly evolving. But before we get on to any of that, I got to check in with the boys. How are we doing today, Lukas?
I'm doing good. It's a really crazy week coming back from Slaaneshmas, and like 2 of the 5 people in my department are on leave. So like I got instantly giga slammed with work. But I finally got through it, and now I'm just excited to zone out and think about Warhammer again for the weekend. It is a kind of a crazy time. Like there's just so much change. I'm excited to get to explore it all. It's cool that there's going to be something like genuinely new. I feel like we've been stuck in the Guard Sisters Hypercrypt meta for so long. I was like falling asleep. So now we finally get something cool and fun, bunch of new stuff. So doing very well. And how are you, our wonderful guest, Donald?
I'm doing well. Yeah, pretty good week. I'm still disappointed that I don't have a new Tau detachment yet. That is getting me down every day that I check the Warcom article and be like, what's tomorrow's? It's not Tau yet, so I'm sad about that. But that's life. Excited to be on the podcast today, though, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, man. Tau don't deserve nice things, so I'm glad to see it going the way it's supposed to. Donald, could you introduce yourself a little bit to our wonderful listeners here? Who are you? What group are you associated with? How long have you been playing 40K? All that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm on Team Aegis. Most of the players are out of the Bellingham area north of Seattle in Washington State, where you really focus on the whole aspect, painting, hobby, sportsmanship, and obviously generalship. I've been playing, I think I started in 2005 or so with Tau, right in 4th edition dropped. And then I stopped playing for a decade or so and started playing again in the tail end of 8th. And when the 9th edition book came out for Tau, I picked that back up, and I've pretty much only played Tau since then. A couple hundred games of Tau since that codex came out, and been having a good time with that.
Yeah, I really got to say that the Aegis crew, for those who haven't hung out with them before, really does that whole triad of the hobby super well. Like the generalship, the sportsmanship, the hobby. Y'all knock it out of the park on all of them. I mean, just our 3 podcast hosts, right? Each one of us is deficient in something. Tyler's a dog shit general, Nick campaign for shit, and I'm a terrible sport. So at least we got you guys.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad that we're able to bring some attention to such a great team. I know y'all sent a team out to Dallas this year, and you guys have been putting on more and more of your own big events, the Cascade Clash series coming out of Aegis Games and the rest of them. If you are in the Pacific Northwest and you are not intimately familiar with this community and the stuff that they do, trust me, you want to be a part of it. Definitely do what you can to check it out. And Donald in particular, this is a crew of fantastic painters, and Donald is the creme de la creme. This man, and brings home a whole lot of awards, both for overall and for straight paint on a regular basis. I really hope that we have a lot of pictures of pretty Tau coming up. I look forward to seeing what we've got going on. So let's jump on into this main event here, because we've got a bunch to cover.
How are you, idiot?
Nobody wants to hear about Tyler. What?
Yeah, I'm doing well out here, man. I am having a ton of fun. the Gramis thing has been crazy. USA stuff is also starting to pick up a lot, so I'm getting a lot more games, internationally, not being able to really play locally out here. It's been a lot of fun. The new Tyranids detachment is a bunch of fun. We'll talk about that later. I've been trying some other stuff. I've been playing some other armies as well. We'll talk about that later, maybe. Trying to broaden my horizons a little bit and patch up some holes in team comps and whatnot. As turns out, there's a couple Tyranid players in the United States of America. So who knows? We'll see. But let's jump right on in then to Slaaneshmas. This is such a bummer to me, as this is the first Slaaneshmas I have missed in several years, and it is always a wonderful event up in Ocean Shores, Washington. Lucas, you want to give us the breakdown on what the event was this year?
Yeah, so in the recent past, Slaaneshmas is always kind of like the penultimate event in our Warhammer season, because it occurs up in the Pacific Northwest anyway, because it occurs kind of right at the end of the year, and it's always like the biggest event as well. Because for a while, Birds events were like the premier ones in the immediately post-COVID era. Slaaneshmas kind of capped that all off. So this year, it was a 71-player event held in Ocean Shores, Washington. Excuse me. I'm not sure if that qualifies it as a GT or a major, but whatever. Those distinctions are kind of moot. It's a 6-round event. We did battle point placings for the tiebreaker. We have terrain as a GW standard. We did layouts 4, 1, 1, and then layout 2 all throughout day 2. And the mission pack was basically whatever Bird felt like. I'm just kidding. He literally stole it from John's Dicing Death 1. Except for the layouts, he changed those up a little bit. So pretty standard, honestly, all things considered, for a GW event up here in the Northwest.
Yeah, I'm glad to see Bird taking missions a little bit more seriously after, and just kind of benefiting from all the research that John has done. We have complained profusely in the past about some of his practices, so it's really great to see him really coming in line with some awesome stuff.
Yeah, as much as I'm giving him shit there, like I would much rather he just borrow the events, the missions from an event that like really, really knows what they're doing, and John's events do know what they're doing. So,
yeah. Sweet. Let's get right into the armies. And here I see we've got Donald Tau in all of their glory. Hell of a hand-painted display board back there as well.
That one's my wife. She's done that one for me. I gave her direction. There's a little Necron door and some things on the right-hand side of the display to kind of give a story. Because my previous display board didn't have a story, and I was kind of docked on that at Cascade Clash earlier this year. And so for Cascade Clash a couple months ago, like in October or whatever it was, I built this up to give a little more story to my army. Do you want me to go through the list?
Do we have the list on I think we have the list on a separate.
It's going to be on a separate. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. But yeah, or just stuff here. I'm literally. How do I full screen this? There we go. Now I can see it full screen. Love that stuff. Do you have like what is that? A cold star made of a remora in the corner there?
Yeah. In the corner, that's a cold star with the remora wings and the remora burst cannon. He's pretty cool. Oh, yeah. And then right in the center, next to Farsight, is a enforcer commander using a broadside chest piece and like leg pieces for his shoulders. So he's really, really beefy. The two most recent ones. So
super
and
thick.
I've got the Vespid. The Vespid new sculpts are so much fun to paint. They were a blast. So they've been knocking it out of the park with those.
Oh, Donald, this is probably a good time to ask. Do you post about your hobbycraft one on social media, on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, or just around in Discord, I guess?
Yeah, not really. I'm really just in Discord. Yeah.
Fair enough. Alrighty. And who's
these? Yeah, I put these up. These are Nick Fromey's, who's also a pleasure. I played him in round 3, which is why I brought this picture up. And he's also been really working hard on his displays and his painting. So I this was one of the other pictures I took, so I thought I'd share it with you guys. It was pretty great.
Yeah, his army looks really good.
Yeah, Nick was accepted this year into the Team USA Academy, so we'll definitely be hearing a lot more about him. Hopefully have him on at some point. Absolute stud in the Northwest and a force to be reckoned with on the table. So awesome to see his hobby coming together. And Lucas, you got some
here's
models
a picture
here?
I took 1 hour ago on my floor because I realized I didn't have a picture of my army.
We have tables, don't we? Like
I couldn't be fucked.
Whatever works, brother.
No, so like it does bear shouting out all the people that loaned me models for this event. Alex Henderson and Ryan Cherewick both loaned me. I'm using Ryan's Angron and 10 Jackals, and 3 8-pound as well. And then Alex loaned me in Bacardus 6 8-pound and 10 Jackals. So I couldn't have done it without you guys. Thanks.
Good stuff. All right, let's get into the actual composition of these lists. Starting with Lucas over here, the famous orc player. What do we got today?
All right, I'm playing World Eaters, baby. We got Angronius Maximus. We've got his best buddy, Lord Invocatus, the piece of shit who can't kill anything. We've got 2 squads of 10 Jackals. We've got 2 squads of 10 Terminators. We've got 3 squads of 3 8-pound and 1 squad of 3 Exalted 8-pound. All World Eater lists are pretty cookie cutter and straightforward. The coolest part about this list is obviously the 2 squads of 20, or 2 squads of 20. That'd be sick. 2 squads of 10 Terminators. Kind of splitting the difference between the 30-nator list and the 8-pound heavy lists that, the more traditional Anthony vanilla style 8-pound lists. So had a ton of fun playing this. And, it's kind of a unique, as standard as World Eaters are, it's a pretty unique take on them. And I enjoyed it thoroughly.
What was your thought process here? I know you were playing 30 for a while, and then you dropped down to 20 here. What instigated that for you?
So I was noticing a lot of deficiencies with the Terminators. The first of which is they all move the same, have the same durability. It's like same. And the problem is like they start doing more damage when they take some heat, but like it's just a squad of Terminators on their own doesn't naturally hit incredibly hard to be like a credible threat to like the tougher things in the game. For example, I'm thinking of Vindicator, right? Some of the math I was doing in my head is like, okay, if a Vindicator AOCs, how do I kill it with 10 Terminators? The answer is that I basically just don't. So pitching the Karn squad I was running for a little while and 10 Terminators lets you get Angron and another squad of 8-pound. The basic 8-pound are really, really good with the Terminators because the Terminators kind of have like middling strength. So getting some rerolls on that is really nice and makes great use of the +1 to wound strat. And then Angron can also supplement their damage very significantly when they're unwounded, right? Like a bunch of attacks hitting on 3s and 4s with sustained is fine, but you all of a sudden you give that reroll to hit and you're like 30 to 40% more efficiency. World Eaters is a buff stacking army. So having more access to those buffs, I feel like was really the direction I wanted to go, and it felt so much better. 20 Terminators is still enough of an anvil that it can take some heat. The major issue with like the 8-pound heavy builds being that they instantly melt if your opponent looks at them the wrong way. The Terminators, can get shot a whole bunch, lose 6 or 7 models, and still the 3 last guys are still like 2 Reaper autocannons with +1 to hit and wound, a combi weapon and 3 power fists. So I felt like 20 was enough to still do what I wanted to do.
Makes sense to me. Sweet. And let's get into the other side here. We've got Donald's Tau with his Retaliation Cadre.
Yeah.
Right now for us, Donald.
Yeah. So I've got Farsight. I've got a Cold Star with missiles, burst cannon, and cyclic ion blaster. Cold Star is going to go with the Fire Knife team that has all missile pods. So giving them full rerolls to hit if you're at starting strength. Then I've got a Cold Star with fusions and the internal grenade rack enhancement. He's going to go with the one of the Sunforge Melta units. So they're going to get rerolls against vehicles and monsters for wounds and damage. I've got an Enforcer with plasmas, going with the other Fire Knife team with plasmas. He's got the Uppy Downy enhancement. So at the end of every my opponent's turns, he goes back in reserves and then deep strikes down somewhere. 2 units of 2 railgun broadsides with seeker missiles and weapons support systems. They are one of the things I'll talk about a lot on this podcast because they were kind of a new thing. I've been running a single pair, now 2 pair. It was pretty interesting and it really helped. So yeah, the 2 Fire Knife teams, this 1 unit of Star Scythe Flamers. These guys get fall back and shoot as their ability, and then the 2 units of Sunforge. Farsight can either attach to the Flamer unit or the other Sunforge unit, depending on the matchup. He ended up attaching to the Flamer units in most games. I'll talk about each game as we go through that, but I found that +1 to wound and the stratagem cost reduction to be pretty useful, and I didn't really need the extra wounding for the other Sunforge unit because I had the 2 broadside units and the fusion Cold Star unit. Ghost Keel with the Ion, 10 Crew, 10 Pathfinders, 3 teams of stealth suits, and 5 Vespid. It's a much more aggressive list than I've played in the past. It's what I've been playing a lot of since they made the point changes, but I basically dropped 3 units of trash and screening for another pair of broadsides, trying to find how to be more aggressive as I got inspired by Jack Harpster's WCW list, who also brought 2 pairs of broadsides, and it obviously worked out really well. It was a ton of fun to play.
The first thing I notice about this list, and a lot of the less good Ret Cadre lists I see, I feel like on other commander loadouts, they're a bit confused with what they want to do. Like I keep seeing Cold Stars with 2 fusions and, 2 missile pods and like another guy with 1 of every weapon, like trying to double dip into multiple, keep their options open with who to attach to. I feel like in this list, it's very clear. Like the missile guy goes with the missile suits, the plasma guy goes with the plasma suits, and the fusion Cold Star guy goes with the fusion suits. So can you talk a little bit about like how you came to that conclusion of like this crisis unit should do this job rather than trying to make them a Swiss Army knife?
Yeah. So the Enforcer with Plasma, I'll start with him. He's got the uppy downy. At Tacoma, I think it was Tacoma, I ran him with missile pods, and I found that the only having AP1 on the missile pods was just bad. When I needed him to be useful late game, when I might not have as much support, or I needed to be active all throughout the game, and just having those plasmas was excellent. So 10 plasmas is really good there. The Cold Star with missiles, high output, and SIB is a little bit of a hybrid. You could go with all 4 missile pods, but this Cyclic Ion Blaster is obviously the most efficient, most damaging weapon that we've got. 3 attacks at 822 is a lot better than 2 at 712. The 18-inch range, though, it's not really an issue because you're so fast, 12-inch plus assault. And then the high output burst cannon is like the SIB. It's also just like, it's twice as efficient as every other gun. And so the hybrid there is that sometimes you need the Cold Star with missile pods to shoot at something 30 inches away. And at that point you have 12 shots from the Crisis and 4 shots from the Cold Star. 16 shots is pretty good at 712, and that usually does whatever you need it to do. But more often than not, I'm going to be like probably within 6 inches, so I'm getting +1 AP even, and so the 18-inch range on the other shots is not a problem. And just that volume of fire is really what I'm bringing the fire knife for.
Very cool. Well, let's get right into it then. We've got a full 6 rounds to break through. Round 1 mission is going to be the Ritual Crucible of Battle Swift Action, right? A lot of people have mixed thoughts on the Ritual, but I think including it as a round 1 inclusion makes a lot of sense here. We'll see how much it impacted these games in particular, but round 1s often are a little bit brutal. So we'll see how things go down. And it looks like I don't even know. I assume this is Donald's Ret Cadre playing into World Leaders. Lukas, of course, as the World Leaders expert. You want to break down this World Leaders list for us? Tell us what you think.
Yeah, so Donald's opponent, I think this is Nick Hendricks, right?
That's right. Great guy.
Yep, absolutely. He's got Angron in his list, Lord of Nakatis. He's got the 140.4 Wound Space Marine with the Berserker Glaive. We've got 2 squads of 10 Jackals. Can never let it go, dude. 10 and 5 Berserkers. We got 1 car for those Berserkers. 2 squads of 3 8-bound, 6 and 3 Exalted 8-bound, and 2 Chaos Spawn. Tell us how this game went, Donald.
Next slide might have my deployment. Yeah, cool. So I deployed with my Pathfinders right on the edge there and scouted them back, as you always do with those Pathfinders against World Leaders. And then I think he went first. So the very first interaction in this game kind of led me to the rest of the entire tournament, which was 5 World Leader Berserkers charged those 10 Pathfinders and killed 4. He handed me like 13 AP1 saves, and I made 9 of them. It was just like wild, and he had area denial, so I stopped area denial turn 1. That was wild. And so what you can see here, the deployment is I've got broadsides at the top and broadsides at the bottom, positioned so that they can both just walk their 5 inches forward and have great lines of sight. And that was what I really focused on in my deployments every game. The rest of it was just trying to get my Cold Stars back far enough that they're not going to get tagged turn 1, and then that they can jump out and shoot. This game went kind of how I was hoping a World Eater game would go, which is that he's kind of throwing 1 or 2 units at me at a turn, and not killing what he's expecting to kill, and then my units just destroying him. Trying to remember. Yeah, it was really just that, and a lot of primary denial as I would like shoot and then scoot forward onto his objective to prevent him from getting primary. So you can see that he only got 5s on turns 2 and 3, and then I think I basically had him tabled by the end of 4. Yeah. So
Good stuff. You're playing an army with an incredibly flexible options in deployment here, right? Broadside, I could imagine, often likes to come off the table edge. All these crises can deep strike. You've got infiltrators and whatnot. What are some of your thoughts going into a deployment with this army in general, and then particularly against something like World Eaters?
yeah, so against World Eaters here, in reserves, I had Farsight with the Flamers and a unit of Sunforge, and my worry was that he would play too defensively, and I wouldn't be able to crack him out, right? Because you can just play defensive against me and like hide behind walls to the point where I can't shoot you, and then you get to charge me when I try to do secondaries. And so I wanted to have something in reserves, but I also needed to have enough of my army on the board so that if he crashes into me with everything going first, I can crack back. And so that's kind of the balance that I tried to take there.
Very cool. Sweet. So resounding win for the Dawn in the first. And we'll clip it over to Lucas, who's now running against Vanguard Spearhead, but not Ultramarines Vanguard. We've got Raven Guard Vanguard Spearhead? All right. Sweet.
Yes, sir.
This is a sick... Was this guy hobbied up super well? I freaking love Raven Guard.
His army looked good.
Well.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. We got a Captain of Phobos armor with the 6-inch fire and fade. We've got Kayvon Shrike. Let's go. He gives his unit what? It's not Uppy Downy. It's some reels or something? It is Uppy Downy.
It's Lone Op and Uppy Downy.
Lone Op and Up. Jesus Christ. All right, that's sick as hell. We got a regular lieutenant with Infiltrate. We got a Lone Op lieutenant who also has Infiltrate, but has Shadow War Vet here. Shadow War Vet is what again?
That's Vect.
Oh, yeah, Jesus. All right. We've got a Tech Marine, 5 JPIs, your good old 6 dev sets, 10 HE double hockey stick blasters, a full 2x5 infiltrators, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, interesting pick, 2x5 scouts, and a Hammer Strike. I'm surprised to not see a Calidus in this list. I feel like I want a Calidus in this list. I also feel like Shrike should have something more than 5 JPI.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to put those points into that character for a unit to have those rules, like...
Take Vanguard Veterans or something.
Yeah, right? I think Vanguard Vets are probably pretty terrible these days, but at least take a 10, man. Have something fun. I don't know.
JPR cheap.
Whatever the case, it's very, very cool to see people innovating and trying fresh stuff. How'd this game shake out?
Oh, it was pretty interesting. I played this guy before. I played his Death Guard at one of Bird's smaller GTs a couple of years ago. So we both walked up to the table and were like, I know you from something. Let's play. It was pretty funny. But yeah, this one was kind of spooky. I mean, the Dev Sense going up, down, the Hell Blasters doing up, down, like they can definitely come in and cripple me pretty hard. The problem is it's like, wow, nice. The Dev Sense aren't super Oath reliant. The Hell Blasters really like shooting the Oath target, but I have 3 units at the end of the day. So like if he gets the optimal turn off, he can like cripple 2 of my 3 units, and then the last one kind of just ends the game. So the whole early part of the game for me was just trying to set that up. And unfortunately, like the 3 vehicles he's got were just kind of dead weight, and he also bought a tech marine for them. So it was like 400, 500 points, whatever, of just sunk costs. Redemptors remain terrible. Like, just don't take them. They're not good at shooting. They're not good at punching, and they're not really that tough. I'm an army of 2 damage, and like these guys insta melted when I touched them. It was kind of pathetic. So yeah, just not good. I mean, he had some cool tools into me, like the Phobos Captain Fire and Fading, so he could like poke his bolt gun out, see if I ingressed in, and then either fire and fade forward or backward appropriately. It was pretty cool. He was joined to 5 infiltrators, and then 5 more infiltrators were just on their own. That lone up lieutenant is obnoxious, by the way, for my army. Like, insane. Reactive move when I get near him, and then reactive move again when I charge him, plus Vect. So, like, you can't CP reroll unless you want to spend 2. If you can't multi-charge him because he'll back away to 11.9, and then you have to hit an 11-inch charge. It's like, oh my god, what an absolute asshole. I finally tracked him down on turn 4, just, like, surrounded him with 10 Terminators, and he's like, oh, I can't go anywhere. And then, boom, he took, like, 33 damage or something ridiculous, which was very cathartic. But, yeah, I was scared of his damage, but ultimately, like, look at that primary, right? Like, on the ritual, he gets maybe a couple 5s, and then he can't ever score again when I commit my army in one go. So, parity on secondaries is pretty expected. Like, he's got scouts, he's got up-down. I don't have that many units, but I should just win the game on primary in the back half, which was what happened.
Good stuff. Sweet. Let's roll on and then down to round 2. Now, keeping up with our theme of early missions being the weird ones, we are going to play Burden of Trust, which I'm curious to hear both your thoughts on. I know that's a pretty contentious mission, but on Tipping Point Hidden Supplies, I think Hidden Supplies is going to help us out here a little bit. Donald, what do you think about this mission selection?
Yeah, this is cool. This is one of John's custom missions. It's not a GW mission. And having Hidden Supplies on Burden of Trust really smooths out the weirdness of the primary. And on Tipping Point, it really makes it, because of the where the objectives are moving to, it just kind of it makes the game feel good. It makes Burden of Trust, like, yeah, it's confusing. Okay, like explaining, you have to hold your objective and then you choose who's going to guard it. But because there's enough objectives in no man's land, like you get to guard stuff. If you're only playing with 5 objectives, oftentimes you're losing control of that objective that you wanted to guard, and then you never get to guard it, and it just goes downhill. So it's a nice one.
Yep, I agree.
Sweet. And Donald, your opponent here, Fellhammer. Is that one of the CSM detachments that I don't know anything about? Lucas.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either. It gives you -1 to wound versus ranged if your strength is greater than their toughness. And a stratagem for a 5-up feel no pain. Maybe just versus ranged as well. It's like specifically just like screw Tau. Like, okay.
I'm sure that saved him, right?
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so this is a cool Fellhammer list. He's got 2 Terminator characters. He's got a Lord with once per phase, turn, blank, I forget. He's got a Demon Prince of Nurgle, so that bumps him to T10. Yeah, he's
11, I think?
He's probably T11.
Yeah, not wings.
Yeah, no wings. So he's T11, and he's got a bolter that after he shoots somebody ignores cover. There's a Termi Sorcerer whose weapons have anti-vehicle. Does his Brain Blast have devastating?
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Because I know he has like a fist. Terminator. Oh, I just looked at Terminator. I got 100,000 data sheets. Sorcerer and Terminator. That's a Death Guard. God damn it. Whatever. I'll find it later. 10 cultists, 2 squads of 5 legios, a car, 3 bikers.
It's Dev.
It's the Infernal Gate. It's Dev. Yeah.
What is the profile?
24 inch range, D6 shots on 3s at 6/2/3, hazard psychic dev.
D3 damage.
Yeah, D3 damage.
I thought you said damage 3. Okay.
No, that's D3.
That's still not bad at shooting a vehicle, especially because like the rest of the Terminators also they get reroll to hit when they packed, and they have devastating wounds guns. Okay, that's cool. 3 bikers. He's got 2 Pred Annihilators, 1 Pred Destructor, 2 squads of 10 Terminators, and 5 Warpy Talons.
Bro read the slate before it came out. He was just so excited for those Annihilators. He saw it coming. Sweet.
Yeah.
How'd this game go, Donald?
Yeah, so I
damn.
drew
We got
up.
the TTS view.
Yeah, I didn't take any pictures after round 1 because I'm a dummy. But I wanted to show people deployment. Just as a note here, I might drop out. My lights were just flickering. We've got a bunch of wind up here. So if that happens, then go on without me. But I wanted to show here the lines of sight that I saw in this. So we have GW layout 1, and I've deployed my broadsides at the top and the bottom again to give those lines of sight. And that was really important because on the center middle of his deployment zone is where he's deployed his like Demon Prince and his Predators and his Rhino. And so that just gave me lines of sight to everywhere that I needed to go. And that was really important. He ended up going first again here. And which I was kind of sad for because I was going to get a bunch of shots turn 1, but he moved up and tried to hide, but he didn't really. And so then on my turn 1, I took out like a Rhino and like a Predator, and it just kind of went downhill from there where like every turn I was killing like 3 or 4 units and like killing a couple Terminators. And so the point where his Terminators actually connected with one of my crisis units, didn't even kill the commander in the unit. It's like, wow, not as much damage. I did yeah, I was like looking at this. Yeah, so I did kind of get stuffed on primary on turn 3. He managed to just get a bunch of guys, all his Terminators on my expansion objective, and just kind of killed me off of the other ones. But at that point, he was way overextended, and I basically tabled him on turn 3 or 4. On turn 4, and you can see I got 22 primary on the last turn because I just held everything and had already guarded everything because I had killed him on turn 4. So yeah, the 5-up Feel No Pain was like annoying, but the problem was that he basically had 1 Terminator unit at the top and 1 Terminator unit at the bottom, and they were both exposed every turn. And so like one of them would get the Feel No Pain and the other one, like half the guys would die. And I just kept doing that. So yeah, the -1 to wound, I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna shoot you. You don't have invuln saves on your tanks? Okay, these AP4 railguns are gonna kill you. Yep. It was good
That
times.
makes sense to me. Brutal.
Yeah, very nice. It can be difficult to balance to play around having such an important piece of durability tied up in your stratagems like that.
Yeah.
I know that playing with invasion fleets since the change to losing double ups has been real wonky trying to make that work. So I can see it being even worse over here.
They're not going to do this because it's not like a rules change, but Jesus Christ, Iron Warriors needed AOC.
Yeah.
They also like melt in melee. None of that defense works in melee, and they were still getting tabled by Army. Like this attachment sucks ass.
Yeah. Oh, is this the Iron Warriors?
This is Iron Warrior.
Okay. Yeah. Not having AOC, oof.
It's a crime.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, looks like a decisive victory for the blue guys. Let's head on over to the red guys versus the gold guys this time around. Lukas playing into Custodes. I assume this is
James Lee?
Boys and Girls Club? Yeah. Detachment, I mean?
Yeah, the
Boys and Girls Club. Talons of the Emperor.
Yes.
Cool. So we've got Valerian. Is that the sister character?
No, that's the AOC custodian dude.
The AOC custodian dude. Got it. Great. We got a pair of blade champs, 2 squads of 5, 1 squad of 4 wardens, 2 squads of 3 Venetarii, 2 squads of 4 prosecutors, 4 witch seekers, a singular car, which I assume is a rhino, and 2 Caladii to back it all up. Custodes, having been on a bit of a hot streak lately, largely on the back of Mr. Folger Piles, friend of the show, who took down the World Championships of Warhammer with a somewhat similar list. Those Caladii are a menace, and I can see them being a big problem for Ronald McDonald over here. How'd it go? Oh, Lukas?
Yeah, the Callidi are definitely a threat to Donald, for sure. Or Ronald, angry Ronald. Um,
The other
Who are
one?
we
I have
talking
a- I have a
about?
Donald
Yeah,
in
I
mind.
don't like him either. That's true.
So yeah, I mean, the problem with this game is I'll just go straight to the scoreboard, right? Like again, the primary here, we're both playing like somewhat durable melee punchy armies. He's got some guns. I don't really have any data sheets to counter that, but I have the distinct speed advantage, right? Like he's just walking toward me 6 plus d6, and I'm running like 13 inches instead. So I basically always get to have the first swing. And with tools like -1 damage, his counter combat is a lot worse. Like if I charge 2 units of Terminators in, the first one cripples a Warden unit. The second one he interrupts. I'm like, okay, -1 damage. You kill 3 or 4 Terminators, and then I do like basically the same amount of damage. And this is another instance of why I love the Terminators, is because in these kind of melee matchups, they're a lot stronger than 8-bound in certain respects. So with that in mind, he like couldn't really aggress on me because he didn't want that outcome to occur, which I mean, it resulted in a primary difference. And then on turn 4, when I decided to commit, it occurred anyway. So basically, again, we scored the same number of secondary points, and I massively out primaried him. I actually ended up basically tabled, and he had these 2 Caladius left. I just ignored them. They're really, really bad at killing Terminators and 8-bound. And they're not that bad at killing 8-bound, but they're pretty bad at killing Terminators because you kill 1 or 2 and then basically give them +1 to hit for free. But they're threatening to Angron, but I just kind of ignored them and moved on with my life, and resulted in some primary differences. This is a game where I ingressed. I think in the last game as well, I ingressed 10 Terminators. That's kind of like my standard. Is 10 Terminators and the 3 Exalted 8-bound. I like the flexibility there because the 3 Exalted are small, right? They're 3 40 mil bases. So it really forces the opponent to screen their backfield in totality. And then also they can slip into little pockets in the midboard. Like a lot of these GW tables have like a little, even though there's like a 4x6 in the middle of the table, they can kind of slip in behind that where there's no angle and then yeet forward because they're super fast and snipe out like some high value target like a Vindicator or a key character or something like that. I did this to an Emotech the other week. Like I ingressed on a flank and then zoomed up and smashed Emotech on a home objective. So just little plays like that are nice. And obviously the Terminators coming out of ingress can be backbreaking in the right scenario.
I know as
Yeah,
a single phase army, the Wardens really annoy me. Are they a problem for World Eaters as well?
Yeah, for sure. Especially Angron. Like he's really bad at killing them because the big smashes probably don't kill, a decent amount of the time they don't kill a Warden. -1 to wound is obnoxious. 4 up invuln is obnoxious. The Terminators really help here. They have more volume than the 8-bound, and that's really what you need in the Wardens. You just need to kill a few of them so they don't hit you that hard back. Whereas like, the 8, especially the Exalted 8-bound with like fewer models for the points can go in there and maybe hand the Wardens a dozen saves, 18 saves, something like that. The Terminators are like, okay, go in, hand them 30 saves. And that's at the point where it probably kills enough. It also makes better use out of the +1 to wound strat, like I've been saying, right? Like getting 42 attacks with +1 to wound is much better than the Exalted getting like 24 attacks with +1 to wound or whatever it is,
Cool.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The reactive move was more annoying. This is my second of 3 games today where I played against reactive moves and I wanted to die, but I made it work because I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Oh yeah, Lucas. Sweet. And that brings us to round 3. Coming in hot with Linchpin, Hammer, and Anvil Stalwarts. Stalwarts being the Chaos Knight rule of choice is with Shoot and Act for Battle Line. And Linchpin being a fan favorite primary, though Hammer and Anvil is a little bit, it's a little bit Tau favorite between the two of them. So we'll see how it goes for each. The Tau are playing into 1,000 Suns. I imagine this is Nick now.
Yep, this is Nick from me. And I just got to say, this mission, we rolled up to this table and Nick was unhappy with the layout because this is layout 1 on Hammer and Anvil. So all the objectives are in the open. Like there's basically nowhere to hide for him. It was
And
It
it's
was rough.
linchpin, so if you're not holding midfield, you're not holding anything. Like,
You're getting like
yeah.
3 points every turn.
Yikes. All right, well, we'll break down the T-Sons list and we'll hear about it, but that sounds pretty decisive. We got Aramon, we got a Disc Sorcerer, we got 2 Infernal Masters, one of which has the Vortex, one of which has Lord of Forbidden Lore. We got a Termisork with the Crystal because Nick loves his Terminators. Mad props for that. Very fun unit. Doesn't keep him taking Magnus, though, so we got him. 3x5 Rubrikai, 10 Terminators, 2 squads of 10 Cultists, and 3 Enlightened, because you got to have some kind of trash, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But man, is this list light on it. Yeah. How did this go once we actually started rolling dice?
This was another game that I get to play against Terminators. It turns out that flat 3 damage that I have a lot of is great into them. But if you go into the next slide, I've got deployment again. And so the way this game went, see, I went
Would you
first.
deploy in your opponent's deployment zone? What is
No,
happening?
this isn't deployment. Sorry, this is turn 2 because this is the fun part. So
Hell yeah.
I got to go first, and historically, I have been incredibly bad going first with Ret Cadre. I have like 100% win rate going second, but going first is like 60%. Like, I don't know what I would do. And that was one of the things I was really trying to get better at this tournament, was going first. And so what happened here was, I went first, didn't do anything. He drew behind recover and started recover with like some dude and Magnus is in that little pocket there. And then on my turn 2, I drew Overforce, bring it down. I'm gonna try to get Overforce. He's got those three little dudes on that far objective, and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot him with railguns and seeker missiles, and I killed like one of them. I'm like, what? Broadsides sometimes suck, but that's all right. But what I really wanted here was he's got recover, and I've got bring it down, and it's Magnus. And like, what is he gonna do if I just kill Magnus turn 2? He's gonna shoot me with some Terminators, like whatever. I've got enough. The crazy thing about this list is I have so many units, and they're all a threat against him, right? So he's got a bunch of guys hiding behind walls and stuff there, and I'm just like, whatever. So I bring in my whole army to kill Magnus. I've got the Cold Star there, who I use the 3-inch deep strike on. I've got Farsight with Flamers behind that. I've got 3 more Sunforge, and I've got the Ghost Keel, and I've moved up the stealth team to also see Magnus. I start off with like a grenade from the internal grenade racks. I'm like, this is awesome, 4 damage. And then the Sunforge with the Cold Star picks up Magnus through 3 rerolls and blanking a damage. And the other Sunforge unit is like, what do we do? I guess we're gonna spot for the Flamer unit to shoot those cultists. They didn't have anything better to do. Yeah, that's kind of where this game went. Was turn 2. This is also a theme. Turn 2 of my first round, I killed Angron. Turn 2 of this game, I killed Magnus. That'll show up again in another game. Kind of demoralizing my opponent was the objective there. -1 to their whole army leadership, right? That'd be great. Yeah, after that, like, he tried to come out and he killed some guys. Like, if his crackback had like picked up everything at that bottom corner, it would have been annoying. But I still have both fire knife units and both broadsides in the back, and enough scoring stuff that like it's not really going to help. His Terminators came out. They did a couple things and held like an objective. No, they didn't. He didn't get any more primary. So yeah.
This seems like a game where Farsight joining the Melta team is kind of like a shoe-in to me. Is it really just kind of? I guess you kind of want to get. Yeah.
So my thought there,
not joining the Flamers.
Yeah, my thought there was that the only target that the Sunforge really need to hit is Magnus, and everything else is infantry. And he has enough infantry that I want that Flamer unit to be more interesting. And so that's why I put him with the Flamers. It also lets him fall back and shoot, which is kind of tasty if he gets tagged. Yeah, it was really just that. I wanted to be able to. It was really just looking at how many monsters and vehicles he had.
I guess
Yeah.
he's also like got a lot of dudes with short range. So like if he wanders up into Overwatch range, you can like mega punish with +1 to wound. That's kind of nice.
Yeah. Basically forcing him to use the warp time to get within range to shoot me. Because you can't Overwatch that. So one thing to note here, Nick did say that he's looking at dropping the Terminators for more rubrics. But that's kind of the way this army goes. They really need a full rewrite.
Yes.
Yeah, they should get dropped from the game. Glad to see them getting put down on their place. Great move here, and way to know when to push all your chips into the middle. I feel like that is a difficult decision to make, and one that a lot of up and comers will struggle with, because playing safe generally leads to wins, but killing Magnus also leads to wins, and much faster against T-Suns. There is not time
exactly. If he wasn't doing recover right there, and I hadn't drawn bring it down, so there wasn't a score reason to do it, I probably wouldn't have gone for it. But because it was going to be such a huge swing, I was like, yeah, let's go for it, and it worked out well.
Nice. Sweet. And meanwhile, Lucas will now be the one playing against Chaos Space Marines, albeit in a more familiar love you, Kim. In a more familiar detachment here of World Leaders versus Veterans of the Long War. We've got ourselves a Chaos Lord with the Crit 5's hammer. We got Cypher for some Vect action. We got Fabulous Bill himself, Terminator Sorcerer, 5 Chaos Space Marines, 5 Nemesis?
The Nemesis Claw, baby.
The Nemesis Claw! Do they have the thing? Do they have the thing? They have the thing!
The unit is so good.
Nemesis Claw, for those of you who do not know, is is the new Chaos Space Marine kill team from Night Lords that finally got rules. And one of their rules is that they have a funny flag that, well, your engagement range of, you cannot use stratagems. Period.
Yep.
Very funny. So take a look at that if you're if you haven't seen it yet. Especially if you play CSM, but it's out there.
Night Lords, baby. We're good.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hey. Anyway, he's got a pair of rhinos, 10 chosen, ostensibly to go in one of those rhinos, 10 cultists, 2 venom crawlers, 2 vindicators, 2 squads of 5 raptors, 2 a blitz, and a squad of 3 nurglings to round it off. This is a super cool CSM list. It feels... I was about to say it feels light on the ground, but he's got the 2 venom crawlers and the 2 vindies to back up the rhinos. Like, he's got a little bit of everything. And this is good. I like this a lot. How did this game go, Lucas?
It was great. I gotta shout out my opponent here. His name was Jameson. He actually lives down in Salem, although I've never met him before. Me and this guy were vibing the entire time. This is probably my favorite opponent that I've played in the last year. Like, he was just super funny, and we both had like the same attitude toward everything, and it was just like goofy shit all the way through. I had an absolute blast, so thank you, Jameson. This was a fun game. His list is pretty scary for me. Oath's a moment, especially with the Lord's discount, so he can like swap to a new target. Really means that if I'm not careful, he can kind of like burst 2 units down instantly. Jameson played really aggressively. I kind of like moved forward a little bit to stage, put some 8-bound on flanks to try to sweep up, because you were playing Hammer and Anvil and layout 1. So like you kind of have to like jam up against the very side of the board to stay safe. And he literally drove all of his vehicles directly toward me. And I was like, wow, this seems like trolling. But it was not trolling. And if it wasn't for one maneuver that I pulled, he probably would have slammed me like an absolute ton of bricks and deleted me. But there was kind of like a little trap that I pulled where on my right flank, he had a Vindicator, a Rhino with the Bile 10 chosen unit, and a Venom Crawler. And I went first. And on turn 2, I went first, staged a little bit. He went bottom turn. He drove toward me with all his vehicles. Turn 3, I roll advance and charge +2 move. I'm like, okay, we're vibing. Actually, no, I don't choose +2 move. I choose advance and charge and sustained. I'm like, I need to kill these vehicles. I run my whole army in, Angron and some 8-bound, kill the Vindicator, kill the Venom Crawler, and then consolidate into wrap the Rhino that was like in between them, and so the Bile unit can't disembark. So that like really crippled his crackback turn because he had like 1 Vindicator and the Lord and Legio Nemesis card to act with. Everything else was basically toast. And in that process, I kind of opened up some holes in my backfield too. Was able to like deep strike a blitz near the middle objective and charge on my backfield, which began a like 6 fight phase long battle between the 2 Obliterators and 20 Jackals, which I eventually won because Jackals are Chads. But yeah, his crackback turn basically completely flopped because the Bile unit wasn't able to do anything. So then that Rhino like desperately broke out and survived and continued to be annoying because my army doesn't really deal with like hulls that well, or cars. Units coming out of cars are a problem for world leaders. But like, yeah, his go turn killed like 6 Terminators. And then from there, I was just everywhere and deleting his army piece by piece. In theory, the reactive move is good here. The problem is like you really can only use it on units of dudes and if there's a car nearby, right? Because these units are like running up right into my face to fight. So to really get value out of the reactive move, he has to drive up a car right behind and then like fight a unit. And then when I move up to respond, he moves back into the car. So it's just much harder to actually put into practice than it would look. And I really feel like this list, I mean, I don't really know what the Venom Crawlers are doing. Maybe he's getting more value out of them in other cases than I got to see this game, but basically it just died for free in our game. So I think that's like, those units are, Venom Crawlers might be a lot better used as like small units of Warp Talons for early skirmishing. This detachment doesn't advance in charge, but you know, in the early game, you're not really using Oath of Moment for very much. So maybe getting to snipe some people with that and Warp Talons be good, or just more Obliterators. I know Blitz are good and Veterans of the Long War because you're getting to recover, you can get the reroll to hit. So again, you make good use out of Oath of Moment. So more tools like that would probably do them well instead of the Venom Crawlers. But yeah, just another game where, again, kind of massively bullied his points. The primary was the biggest difference, but in this game, I also happened to score insanely well on secondary, drawing like the perfect thing every time. And he just kind of ran out of gas on turn 3 because the Bile unit didn't get to fight for like 3 fight phases it was urgently needed in.
Very nice. Just a disgusting show of force with a 20-0 by the world leaders. Great. So we're finishing up day 1, and we are both undefeated. Good stuff to the boys. How are we feeling going into day 2? There's a lot of sharks out there still on the pond. I know there's some Nids that are doing well. I think there's some Krons that are still out there that are doing well. What are you guys thinking going into day 2?
I'm just happy that all the Knights are gone because I just don't like all T10 stuff. So that was me. Everything else was like, oh, cool, this will be fun. I'd already made like my one goal for the weekend was not lose round 1, so everything else was vibing because the last 2 Slaaneshmases I lost round 1.
God, that's a bummer.
Yeah, so looking good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm feeling good as well. There's a couple armies that might be problematic for me, like the fast gun armies, Ret Cadre, Hypercrypt as well will be really problematic. But a lot of the other armies that are up here, like there's a lot of melee Marines that are randomly undefeated. There's some like Tyranids and shit. Like, yeah, give me that, dude. Let me punch some people in the face. So yeah, I'm excited for day 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So moving into round 4, and the missions are going to tighten up a little bit here. We've got Scorched Earth, Search and Destroy, Swift Action. I love Scorched Earth, Search and Destroy. I think that is such a great combination. The mission with the most asymmetric set of objectives, with the most difficult decisions about burns. Are you going to try to reach out and steal your opponent's expansion, hold it down and burn it, or the middle similarly? Or are you going to abandon your expansion really early on with a burn and move off of that later on? In practice, it's going to favor the person who goes second a great deal, but this layout already favors the person who goes first a lot. So I chef kiss to this mission.
Yeah.
I imagine you guys had some experience. Awesome. And sure enough, Ret Cadre is playing into Hypercrypt. So definitely vehicles, but not T10 ones, notably. A lot of T9 on this table. So I know a thing or two about Hypercrypt. We're playing with the Nightbringer. They will never nerf Catans out of people bringing them. We're so insistent. Hexmark, we got Xeris, we got the Silent King himself, a Reanimator, a Spider. So the full package there on defense. only 2 DDAs as a result of that, which seems a little light to me. 3 solo locusts and a monolith. Tell me, Donald, how did this Battle of Xenos Deep Strike Guns go?
Yeah, this was one of the scary lists because Hypercrypt is just generally faster than I am and shoots pretty well and is super durable. And so sometimes it's just like 4-ups can just ruin your day, and that can be a problem. Seeing Illuminor Xeris without any battle line was kind of good for me. If you're taking like the Warrior Brick with Plasmancer, with Illuminor can really be that's a good shooting unit, and he didn't have that. He just kind of had a bunch of big stuff, and I felt like I had the tools for it. If we go to the next slide, I have something. Yeah, so here's my turn 2. So again, he went first, which is obviously not what he wanted. We both wanted to go second so hard in this mission, right? And so he get first, didn't really do anything, and at the end of my turn 1, he had like 3 units in that center U, just to the right of the center objective. He had 3 units there, and he pulled them all away from there, which left me a pocket to rapid ingress on his turn 2, my Cold Star onto the center objective. It didn't give me any primary, but it let me advance right next to the Silent King turn 2. And so I did the thing where I did it earlier, where I killed a Silent King turn 2 with the Cold Star. And here I did have Farsight with the other Sunforge unit because he just had all these holes. That was really good. And I think I have the placement of these units right. I dropped in 4 broadsides, the bottom objective there, to shoot at the 1 DDA that I could see. And the first broadside unit picked up the DDA, and I was like, oh, I guess the other guys don't get to do anything. That's cool. And I just kind of spread out. I really wanted to stretch him across the board. And I had my Enforcer unit for Uppy Downy to kind of help out. The weight of units that I have and going second and getting that first crack into the Silent King was really the game. A fun thing happened here. When I killed the DDA, it exploded, did a wound to the Locust Destroyer on his home objective, and then I used the internal grenade racks to fly over that guy and grenade him after I killed the Silent King. So that was, yay, internal grenade racks was pretty cool. Yeah, so again here it was pretty good for primary there, and going second, burning his I think it burned his home objective on the last turn. Yeah, it was he had basically what happened after this was he'd rapid ingressed his monolith on the left side of the board to attack my expansion objective, and by the end of the game it was the monolith and the Nightbringer, and that was all that was left. I just ignored those 2 units and said, like, you guys can do what you want. I'm just going to auto-see you or run away from you and do everything everywhere else. So, it was a really fun game. Alex was an excellent opponent. Really had a great time playing against him. And he'd learned a lot from this, especially not screening the center for that rapid ingress was a pretty big play. So it was good times.
Nicely done. Xenos supremacy once again. And Lucas up next is getting to, oh my gosh. Lucas is playing into the Black Templars, baby. The 101 Dalmatians.
And I'm playing the
Let's
Zoomer.
go.
You know the Zoomer I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I know, absolutely know the Zoomer. Mr. Bursek over here.
Mr. Bursek, dude.
What a child. Love this kid. Yeah, and this is especially funny to us. Is this brings back memories of our time in Dallas with Mr. Stephen Trimble on the Rose City Ruffians playing the 30 World Leaders Terminators with Angron, where his Black Templar opponent was fairly insistent that this was definitely a Black Templar favored game, and was unfortunately mistaken. So I'm excited to hear about you tearing these dogs to pieces. How'd it go, Lucas? Or I should read the list first. We got Helbrecht. We got the Castellan with 10 Hauser's Bones. We've got Grimaldus himself. We've got a captain. We've got 4 squads of 20 Primaris Crusaders. 3x5 scouts and 5 JPI, keeping it simple, not a Calidus in sight. How'd this go down?
So when I was reviewing the undefeated list at the end of day one, I'm looking at this guy's list and I'm like, wow, this looks really light on the ground. We got 4 characters and 60 Crusaders. God damn, the points nerfs hit hard, boys. What the hell happened? So it turns out that this guy couldn't sign up for the event properly. So he messaged Bird and was like, Bird, sign me up. Here's my list. And Bird's like, I bet. Takes the list, doesn't copy and paste 20 Crusaders, 3 squads of scouts, and 5 JPI in, puts it in. So this guy's playing 1,600 points, and I'm like, dude, where are all these extra models coming from? He's like, oh, Bird didn't copy and paste my whole list in. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I thought this list was like utter dog shit. No, he actually has 50 more, or 30 more, 40 more Space Marines than I thought he did. Anyway, yeah, this is a world leader favorite game, right? Like, ultimately, he's just trying to like walk toward me at a reasonable clip and be tough enough. And my army is like Space Marine killing weapons times 500 million attacks and damage multiplying buffs. So like this should really favor me. Despite my best efforts, I did win this game. Basically, I threw Angron away immediately in this game and in my round 6, which was incredibly stupid. I kind of forgot that both this army and the army I'm going to play in round 6 will have easy access to like switch into lethal hits and can hit their oath target with like full rerolls to hit lethal hits. And so Angron kind of went in, killed half a Crusader brick. He did this dumb thing. I charged his like scout Crusader brick with Angron. I'm like, all right, do you want to do anything? Like, I'm just going to Thunder Smash because I don't want the Field of Pain to screw me up. I'm just going to hit you and kill 9 Space Marines. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to Fight on Death AOC. I'm like, well, Fight on Death is stupid because you don't have any rerolls. You have no buffs at all. Okay, the Fight on Death did like 1 damage to Angron, fine. But he also AOC'd and then put the saves on the power armor guys. I'm like, dude, if you don't roll insanely well, you're going to lose all the power fists. And I handed him 9 saves and he rolled like 5 out of 9 6-up armors on the power fist guys. I'm like, all right, well, I guess they survive. Fuck you, dude. So that was annoying. But yeah, it was just kind of like the tempo, the momentum of this game was absolutely wild. So you can't really see it in terms of primary. This guy, Sean, ended up going first. And again, a very close game on secondaries that I ended up getting a slight edge on primary, partially because I went second. But the tempo of this game was so wild because in the first 2 turns, I killed 60 Crusaders, 10 of the scouts, and 5 JPI. So he had the Helbrecht brick and 5 scouts left by turn 3. Meanwhile, in response, he had killed Angron and 3 8-bound. So I still had like my entire army other than Angron. And then the Helbrecht unit proceeded to kill one of my units or more every single turn for the rest of the game. Until I was tabled at the end of the game and he had Helbrecht's unit still with like 2 Space Marines alive. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? This unit just chatted through my entire army and was like, every turn was AOC, Fight on Death. AOC, Fight on Death. And I'm like, okay, I'm dying, dude. I can't do anything at all. And there was like a key moment on turn 4 where I go for a 7 rerolling into Helbrecht's unit and I fail it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's probably game because that was 10 Terminators, like my reserve Terminator unit trying to make their 7, failing. That would have put Helmbrecht's unit down and solidified the win. It would have been a big win. But I failed, and then Helbrecht's unit walked over, and then with like the 4 remaining Power Fists, the Castellan, Helbrecht with lethal and sustained oath killed like 9 Terminators through -1 damage. Like, it was genuinely disgusting.
Ooh.
So yeah, that unit just went on a tear, and I barely squeaked out the game on points. So did not go the way I thought it was going to. I really should have ingressed that Terminator unit instead of walking it around. I thought that the 1 CP that I would have used on ingress would have been a big deal because obviously jamming -1 damage and interrupts into this list is pretty brutal. So I thought I really needed to save up the 2 CP to do that, but it was not necessary. I should have just ingressed and made further use of my speed advantage. So it was a cool game. Other than AOCing and Fighting on Death on turn 1, Sean played it really well. I think if he just had like those 2 extra CP for my go turn, it would have been huge because an interrupt would have been massive, and he just didn't have it. So yeah, very interesting game.
Hell yeah. Props to Sean for getting this all together. Were these prints or did he actually have 80 Crusaders?
I think some of them were prints.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless, having to paint all of that nonsense to whatever standard, not an easy task. So props to him for making it happen.
Oh, yeah, I think in the entirety of turn 1, he kind of played horrifically. Yeah, because he also like threw all of his scouts and JPI forward to block me. Didn't do anything with them, and I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. Killed them all for free. That's just people love doing that against world leaders, and I don't know why.
All right, Sean, sorry, you're not getting any flowers anymore.
Cool.
You
played it well on turn 2 onward.
Nice job, Sean. All right, moving on to round 5. We're playing right down the middle here. Taken hold, Crucible of Battle, raise banners. Things are getting spicy. And Donald is now playing versus world leaders, and Lukas is now playing versus Ret Cadre. It's time for the show. Oh, I didn't get the sound effects ready. Dang it! Do I have the sound effects? I don't have the sound effects. Oh, I do. There we go. Let's go. Oh, it's very exciting. All right.
And how I saw this game going. So we deploy up, and I've got like a bunch of Pathfinders in the center that I'm doing my infiltrate, and then whoever goes first, then I scout them back, whatever. Lukas, you went first, right? And so Lukas ends up charging my Pathfinders. I'll let him explain that. And he's got he also made a nice 9-inch charge into my Sunforged Crisis Suit team at the bottom. You can see here that I've got again, I've deployed the broadsides on the table so that they can walk up and shoot. Spoilers, they didn't really walk anywhere. They stood in place the entire game, I think, to either die or shoot. Anyway, so he brought forward. He had 8-bound in my deployment zone, Exalted 8-bound touching that bottom objective after killing some stealth suits. Angron touching the bottom objective. 10 Terminators in the center that had killed some Pathfinders. 3 more 8-bound. All the Jackals that had charged the Pathfinders and then piled into the Kroot to try to tie up the Kroot, because I'd wanted to use them as a second screen the next turn. And then you can see kind of Lord Invocatus in that little pocket up there. So then what ended up happening was this was my turn 1. Man, turn 1 and 2 took forever, and then the game was over. But turn 1, I killed all of those red X's there, and Lukas can tell you how that happened. But yeah, I killed it felt like half his army turn 1, and that turned out pretty good. So Lukas, tell us about your turn 1.
Yeah, so I knew this was kind of a troublesome matchup because I know World Leaders struggle into fast guns. So I was a little bit unsure of how to approach it. Which, looking back on it in hindsight, I'm very glad that the game ended up the way it did, because if I had just run at you like a monkey like I did and won, it would have been very unsatisfying. No, it would have been very satisfying. What am I talking about? But I don't think it would have done justice to like the way that the game is supposed to work, right? Like, I think you understood this matchup much better than I did. And what really, like, the central dynamic that I didn't quite comprehend was every time one of my meaningful units hits one of yours, it gets annihilated off the face of the earth. And then every time one of your units shoots one of mine, it's not quite as catastrophic, right? Because like the broadsides aren't very good in the Terminators, and they're okay in 8-bound, but like you're still tearing huge chunks out of me, right? Like, we're both monophase armies, and we're both like fairly elite and fairly squishy. So like every time we activate into each other, it should do like catastrophic damage disproportionate to the amount of points we're spending to do that damage, if that makes sense, right? Like, so on turn 2, I had 3 8-bound charge a commander and 3 fire knives and obliterate them with massive overkill. I thought I was going to need Invocatus to help clean up that combat. I was completely wrong. In response, like, your squad of like the remnant commander and 1 fire knife annihilated 3 8-bound, like, with complete overkill. So like these activations are just, we're wiping the floor with each other. And what I needed to do was try to play for the little margins where like remnant units survive. And this, because I had the Terminators, I feel like I was actually better prepared to deal with this than the 8-bound people, because the Terminators love those kind of interactions, right? They've got a 4-up invulns they can kind of scam. They can turn on 6 at Feel No Pain, which I didn't do on turns 1 and 2, and that cost me big time, where they can really scam the 3 damage plasma. And instead of 0 or 1 or 2 models surviving, maybe I have 3 or 4, and all of a sudden that unit can walk up, gun down the 8 remaining Kroot, charge in, and kill another unit of Crisis. I didn't have that available to me because I didn't play with Feel No Pain in the first 2 turns. Where all I need is 3 or 4 Terminators to cause massive damage to your army, but those units were dying because I didn't have Feel No Pain active.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the story of this game. Turn 1, I just lost too much, and to my credit, I noticed almost immediately. I'm like, oh, I played this wrong, right? I needed 1 or 2 more remnant units alive on turn 2 as I continue to rush in to really try to break your back, and I just didn't have that available.
Yeah.
But
you'd realize halfway through your turn 1 that you shouldn't have spent the auto 6-inch advance, and you should have saved the CP for getting a Feel No Pain. And that would have left. It probably would have left 1 or 2 remnant 8-bound alive, and you probably would have had 5 Terminators in the middle instead of 1. Right, because I took out half that Terminator unit with flat 3 damage from the Enforcer plasma, and the pain would have really helped.
Yeah, I think you handed me 5 or 6 saves, and I failed 4 or 5 of them. So if 1 or 2 of those flip, and then all of a sudden I lose 3 or 4 instead of 5, it's okay. I mean, then I have 4 Terminators left, and I can kill 2 extra units with them. And even 1 8-bound survives. Right, the 3 8-bound that I had in the second wave annihilated 4 Crisis suits. If I had just 1 or 2 more that stayed alive toward the bottom of the screen here in combat with those Crisis, that sergeant would have fought, killed the last remaining Crisis suit. Your commander would have been there, and then my guy is free to go and charge something else. So just playing to those margins and trying to keep each and every unit alive. I don't really need Sustained to kill you, right? I over prioritize Sustained, and movement is obviously very good in the Tau, but I took Sustained where I didn't really need it, right? I overkilled your units when I didn't have Sustained. So what's the point of picking it? As we can see here, the scorecard, you beat me by a pretty good margin. 26 points. That's a 15-5.
Closest game that I had by far.
I really struggled to score secondaries, and I guess a fair amount of that is because on turn, I scored decently in the first 2 turns.
But by the end of turn 3, you had I think you had 5 Terminators and Angron.
Yes.
And I ignored Angron until that was the only thing I could deal with, and then he didn't come back. Because I've been scammed by Angron coming back so many times that it just no, just kill me.
You usually want to let him do his thing.
Yeah. If you go back to the last slide, I want to touch on one other thing about the deployment. I know one way you can deploy against role leaders is say, no, you cannot charge me turn 1 by being outside of whatever that range is, right? And just be what's the math? Okay, you can't charge me, cool. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to play the game where he gets to stage in that center objective and those L's and not and then just keep focused, keep me back in my deployment zone, and then he just gets to score everything and win the game, right? So I deployed a little bit aggressively, and it gave him a 9-inch charge, which he made, and it let him touch the Kroot, and the 9-inch charge that he made, I was okay with that. He killed 2 of the 3 Sunforge guys, and because of their invulns, which was cool. He touched the Vespid, and that was oops, I should have had 4 more points. Those Vespid should have been an uppy downy. The Kroot was interesting. The Kroot I wanted to use as a screen turn 2, and so that's why I had them a little bit more aggressively forward. I didn't quite grok his play of the pylon, but that ended up screwing him over because he had that fun tricksy play of getting a pylon or getting into the Kroot. And yes, if he kills all the Kroot, then I don't have a screen turn 2 against those Terminators, and that move block is pretty big. But on the other hand, it let him come out with more stuff than he maybe should have. I don't know. It was an interesting dynamic. Trying to find the edge, that little knife edge there between aggressively deploying enough and hiding enough that you're not losing a bunch of stuff.
I think you did exactly what you need to do. playing a shooting army into a melee army, which is get them out in the open in front of you as quickly as possible, right? So like these Pathfinders in a perfect spot where if I charge them, I'm on the objectives, but I'm in the middle of the open where your army can see me. And if I don't charge them, then the Pathfinders can continue being a screen to take the first hit. So, I mean, so many people don't learn to split that difference correctly and then like deploy 9 inches away. And if they go first, run directly toward the Eaters to block their movement. And I'm like, okay, you've given me a free unit and staging positions. Like that's a terrible, terrible idea. But also like completely backlining and giving me no charges is also fine because I will be able to stage and control the objectives. What you really want to do is just get me out of the ruins as quickly as possible so you can start killing my units. Because it's going to be a very tenuous game if you decide to play a slow, like grindy style, and I'm fully staged up.
One other thing to note in this World Leader matchup is the World Leaders have the Bloodbath on objectives stratagem, which is absolutely fantastic. It is like one of the best things you can do as World Leaders in this matchup. But Ret Cadre specifically have a tool to combat that, which is Torchstar Gambit, Strike and Fade. So I can say like, oh, do you want to play that in blood? Well, if you do, I'm going to just jump on it and we both lose a CP, but you don't get that objective, or you don't, and then I don't have to do that. And that was a nice play. He ended up turn 3, I think, not using that on an objective. I don't think I might not have been able to jump onto it in any case, but that ended up being a couple point difference as well. But
there's
really
some fun
game.
interplay there too, right? Because I could be like, you have to now strike and fade onto the Sidonai primary. Now I have a layup charge. I mean, this matchup is honestly pretty interesting. It's a little bit volatile because there's a couple key roles, like the leadership 7 no fallback checks can be like really sketchy. And like both of us are playing glass cannons in our one phase. So honestly, all things considered, it's pretty interesting.
Yep. That was a fun round 5.
Yes, definitely.
Very cool. Nicely done by you both. Donald coming out on top here, 77-51. And that brings us into finally the finals in round 6, playing Linchpin Tipping Point Fog of War Mission C, the best mission in Pariah Nexus, in my not so humble opinion. And we'll see what we're staring down the barrel of here. Donald staring down the barrel of Invasion Fleet Tyranids, something I know a thing or two about. This is a fun list being run by our boy Ryan then from down in Salem. He's got a pair of Broodlords in Invasion Fleet. Let's go. He's got old One Eye himself. You got to have him in Invasion Fleet. 10 Gargs, 10 Horms, a Biovore, 2 Carnifexes to go with old One Eye. I assume they've got the normal Death Spitters and stuff. 2 squads of 10 Gene Stealers to go with the Broodlords. So we're talking about 2 units that are trying to push on pressure early, are able to get decent places, and Invasion, they do crazy damage when they can get that the sustained with the crit 5s or lethal with crit 5s, frankly, either way, and just really put down the hurting with all of the dev wounds. We've got a pair of Exocrine because you got to have them. A Horror-Specs, which is a choice. I disagree with, but it's a choice. 3 Lictors because they're great. No Neurolictors because
that was a choice.
Who needs them? A Maleceptor, he's excellent into Tau and others, especially against a kind of Tau that wants to get really up close and personal. A Maleceptor is going to do a lot of good work there. And 3 squads of 3 Von Ryans. I think this is a really interesting tech piece in a world where Guard and Sisters kind of reign supreme. The meta right now is very hole-based, and Von Ryans are very good at gumming up holes early on and preventing your opponent from getting involved in the game, while you're with this list able to either be staging with Lictors, who are lone ops, or with very durable things like this Maleceptor here with access to that Feel No Pain. The list makes a lot of sense to me. I think it would honestly play better on WTC than it does on GW boards. Those Von Ryans are really intriguing to NIDs on WTC tables, but like I said, some decisions that I disagree with, some that I agree with more. Ryan really likes to do his own thing, and he usually comes up with some pretty clever ideas. So
I'm curious. I was hearing that Ryan was taking behind engage every single game. Did he take that against you?
He did. He told me after we deployed that that's what he was taking. And I was like, oh, okay. So you're not getting any secondaries this game. Got it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you looked at my list. I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that is one of those game plans that is really good if your opponent does not know what they're doing and completely falls apart if they do. This army has such great tactical play and it has great stratagems. I don't know why you would choose to do that, particularly against a generically good opponent like Ret Cadre Tau. Especially when like do you get what's your bring it down count like, Donald?
It's not. I mean, everything's like worth 2. The broadsides are worth 4. It's probably fine if you can kill me, but like, you can't really kill me. I'm gonna kill you first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just play tactical.
Yeah.
I
was.
so.
Tyranids play tactical. Like your army is. I mean, sure, the Von Ryans. If you go first, the Von Ryans are in your deployment zone. Yeah, you're getting a bunch of points to start the game with. But like.
Yeah,
anyway.
but also like once the Von Ryans are done. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sweet. Oh, and we don't.
I can talk about the game. Is there?
Yeah. No worries.
Did we not have a?
I did not see a score sheet for this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put that in there. Anyway,
Oh,
so can I go through this list? Basically, what happened? He went first. No, I went first, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm going first. I got to make sure that I have the pressure. Kill the Von Ryans that were like in my face. He deployed them like on the line in like 9 inches from my deployment. And I shot my broadsides turn 1. It got like his HAR specs down to 4. Something else. And it was kind of from there, like I was just killing his stuff so hard. Turn 2, I think I'd killed like all of his big bugs, and like by the end of 3, he had like old One Eye and the Carnifex and a Lictor, and it had gone downhill so hard that was it my mid? So either turn 3 or turn 4 shooting phase, he scooped because I was just killing his stuff so hard, and he wasn't able to interact back really, because I'd kill his long range stuff or the stuff that could get me or get out of the way after he shot or after I shot. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Yeah. Oh, amazing. He obviously did really well getting to where he did, but I don't know how his other games went.
There was a fair amount. I know there's a fair amount of like sisters, and there was like there was a number of people playing hull based shooting at this event, and I do think that this list is pretty good into that, because you can like crit 5s lethal the Gene Stealers, you can jam them up with 3 big bugs on turn 2. You've got like multiple infiltrators that can kind of run in and cause some hassle. Like 6 infiltrating Lictors plus Von Ryan Leapers is genuinely like a lot, and you can go tag everything on turn 1, which is relevant. I don't see how this list fails to deal with anyone who has like any kind of movement shenanigans at all.
Yeah.
Right. Like it fundamentally is not really, the damage isn't really that there in this list, and it also doesn't have a tyrant, so like it can't really spam those good stratagems that much, because I think crit 5s is 2 CP if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is. Yeah. Sorry. I sort of assumed he was here, and no. Oh, yikes.
Yeah. He had like, one of the things in the game was he had a Lictor on his expansion objective, and turns 2, 3, I was doing the strike and fade onto that objective with a single crisis suit to prevent him from getting any primary. And I was like, whatever, I'm going to throw away these 3 flamers to stop your primary. Yeah, you're going to charge me with your Gene Stealers and a Broodlord. And yeah, kill those flamer crisis suits, and then I'm going to kill those guys. He's like, but I'm going to have this feel no pain. I'm like, yeah, but I've got a lot of guns. So
yeah, those Gene Stealers also, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, because I'm so used to the Vanguard ones, but they don't have advance in charge, and they don't have fallback in charge, right?
Correct. They move 8. That's it.
Yeah.
They move 8.
Yeah, that seems, I mean, as a damage dealer, it seems cool, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice win, man. Congratulations.
Very cool. Excellent. That puts Donald all the way up. But before we congratulate him fully on his accomplishments, we got to check in on Lucas down in the consolation bracket, playing against champions of Rust, the superior Wolf Jail. And man, this is a Wolf Jail list with some tech. We've got Logan on the sleigh, as he always should be. None of this Terminator nonsense, which is better, but it's not as cool. 2 Wolf Lords, one of which has the Black Death, one of which has frost weapons. I don't know what the hell that does, Lucas. You're going to have to tell me.
Oh, right now. Black Death is anti-vehicle monster 4+.
On
For his
Death.
unit or for himself?
For his weapon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is cool because if you run him with a Thunderhammer, obviously he goes bonk. And then Frost Weapon, I think, is +1 strength and AP to melee weapons, which is cool. I don't know which of those apply to the dog, but some of them might apply to the dog.
But they're all just buffs to make the characters better. Nothing for
Yes.
the unit.
Yes.
I see. We got 3 Wolfguard battle leaders on Thunderwolf. We've got a regular captain in Terminator armor. Hell yeah. We've got R. Jack Rockfist, the man, the myth, the legend. 3 squads of 5 Wolf Scouts, who just went up in points for some reason. 3 squads of 3 suppressors. Man, we're digging deep into the Marines builds today, coming up with all sorts of data sheets. 3 min squads of Thunderwolf Cavalry here, so we're really focusing on the output of those characters there, and a little bit less on the jailiness. And then 10 Wolf Guard Terminators to round it all out. Did the captain and Arjak get to double join here, or are they?
Yes. Arjak
Okay,
is not a captain. He's like
He's a lieutenant?
company champion type of dude.
Okay, sure. Tell us about Arjak, Lucas.
He's very cool. I don't know what the Terminator captain is doing. He's literally just there for a free strat, which seems terrible to me. But Arjak is awesome. First of all, he's Thor, which is the coolest part about him. So he has 1 ranged attack with 6-inch range assault, hitting on a 2 at 8 -2/3 anti-monster 4-up. And then he has 6 of those attacks in melee, or maybe it's 5. But hitting on 2 is at 8 -2/3. So he's an old school Thunderhammer. His abilities are sick. So first of all, he gets to challenge for free. And when he makes an attack that targets a character unit, I think he gets reroll hits and wounds. Himself, not his unit. And then he gives his unit the World Eater Terminator rule. So when they're below starting strength, they have +1 to hit. When they're below half, +1 to wound as well. So when he's joined a 10 Wolf Guard, who I'm pretty sure are just like the price of normal Terminators, maybe a little bit more, like they can take a Storm Shield and a Power Fist, or a Storm Shield and a Thunderhammer. So they're 4 wound Terminators, AOC access, 6 up Feel No Pain access from Champs of Rust, +1 hit when they're below starting strength, and they've got this like sick damage 3 character leading them, who gets to challenge for free every turn. Like this unit can really hit like a freight train. So I think this unit is pretty cool. Again, like I said, not quite sure what the captain does, but he's there. The suppressors, also pretty cool. They're Space Marines with jump packs, and they're pretty small footprint, so they can kind of, yeah, but like you have Logan to reroll. Hey, you have Logan to reroll charges, and you can like spend a CP. Right? Like you're playing 90 points for 100 points or whatever, how much a tourney captain is for a free strat and a reroll to charge. Seems bad. Yeah, 3 squads of 3 suppressors. Their rule is when they shoot someone, they're -1 to hit until the Wolves player's next turn, which is pretty cool because ultimately this list is like a brawling list. It kind of wants to get into prolonged fights. So if you can like have these 3 screening units to do actions with, situationally they can shoot in and give like a key enemy interrupt -1 to hit, which is pretty cool. And then they also have deep strike, right? So they can come in and do an action in the backfield. One of them can do that, and the other 2 can kind of play support duty for the first couple turns. Yeah, they're pretty cool. I liked them. I was honestly impressed. And then the 3 squads of 3 Thunderwolf Cavalry. I think this is kind of in response to Stormlance not being super great in melee matchups, which this list is much, much better in kind of brawly matchups. The smaller squads of Thunderwolves kind of save on the points increase and let you afford more crap units. This list is a lot of crap units because it is 3 squads of scouts and 3 squads of suppressors. Those Thunderwolf kind of act as like the flankers to the Terminators, just kind of fucking shit up in the center of the board, which is cool. So yeah, this list was really awesome. It was a very, very close run game. We were both thunder punching each other. Not really too many brain cells involved until turn 3 when he killed Angron, and then Angron immediately revived, ingressed, and came in and ended his career. So, unfortunate kind of end to a tournament run where it was like a somewhat unsatisfying game because I feel like I didn't really outplay Linton that hard. It was just kind of us punching each other, and then my 500-point model revived on a 5% chance to win the game, which was just stupid. It's my least favorite part of World Leaders. Yeah, in the moment, it's cool to be like, "Oh, Dad's back, he's ingressing," but it's just dumb, man. Like I wish the army was pointed around not having a small chance to have a 500-point Primarch, you know. So all told, I mean, a fun game, and Linton's a great opponent, great guy, and well played, but just not a very satisfying experience to cap it all off, unfortunately. So
Yeah, very, very cool. I feel like Blood Yahtzee is enough variance for them to build that army around. I would like to see something moved around. Though also, people love Angron because he's very cool, but very much like T-Suns, I would love to see a World Leaders army playable without him.
yes,
He is so necessarily important to that.
honestly, both of those Cult Marine factions are completely dependent on their dad, which is just like not fun, right? Like you have to play with this one guy. If he dies, it feels horrible. If dad gets to do his thing, the opponent kind of doesn't feel super great. And everything else in the army is pointed around him. Like T-Suns are playing with 20 cultists and 15 tactical marines in their entire army because their dad is broken. World Leaders as well are playing with 15 models because dad's broken. Like, surely we can design different mechanics around these models. They're just not, I don't find them that fun or interesting.
Yeah. Especially when you have Death Guard right there, who I feel like are doing it absolutely perfectly, where Mortarion is unequivocally good. He's not insane. Don't get me wrong. Death Guard are not a fundamentally crazy good faction. But like builds with Morty, solid. Builds without Morty, also solid. Can do very different things and are not building around on Tim. And when they do build around Tim, that's like a decision they're making with clear trade-offs to it. He's still very expensive. He's still very bad in melee, but he provides a bunch of really nice things and a lot of cool durability. Awesome. More of that. Very cool. Sweet. Well, that brings us to the end of the event. And Mr. Donald, we've got a request here from the audience. And so thanks for working for the Chiller Super Chat. Where's the damn belt, Donnie?
It's somewhere. So my first, the history here is that the first tournament that I won was Rosehammer 2 earlier this year, and the prize for winning there was a giant ass belt like you'd get from World Wrestling thing. And it's somewhere. It might be, I don't know. I got too much shit. Yeah. But yeah, thoughts. I was super happy with how aggressive I got to be. The layouts in this tournament pack helped. Not having layout 7 or 8 meant those broadsides just got to activate. And while sometimes they're, after they shoot their secret missiles, it's only 4 big shots and 8 missile pod shots, but they got to just keep going. And those dev wounds often were popping up, and having 4 of those guys really meant that I was able to, use them where I needed to with that long range. Really had a really great time finding that aggression, and really wouldn't change anything about the list. Everything worked out really well. I was kind of surprised at how well some of the things worked, like not having Dark Strider in the list. I was like, I'm gonna how do I hold my home field? Well, you don't have to worry about that if you just kill your opponent. And I'm starting to learn this, if I just, and the big thing was taking the initiative turn 2 or even turn 1 almost, meant I was in the driving seat for the game, and putting my opponents on that back foot of trying to dig themselves out of that really let me control the game and really put that up. Apart from, Lukas, that was a 15-5, and then I had like an 18-2 and 19-1, and then the rest was like 20-0s. It was just brutal how much I was just killing stuff. A big part of that Yeah, the packet was almost written by Tau player. Yeah, a big part of that, maybe not a big part, but certainly a decent chunk of that was the 3-inch deep strike. And so, like, because I use that every game to, maybe not every game, but most games to drop in and get in Melta range for the Sunforge unit to take out, Magnus or the Silent King, or something big like that. And so losing access to that is going to reduce the amount of aggression you can do, and kind of put you back. Depending on if you go first or second, you're going to be, rapid ingressing the Cold Star unit so you can get in Melta range, or just coming in, at 9 inches and not having Melta. Now, not having Melta is actually not really a big deal because I guess you've got reroll damage anyway, but it's more about getting into the places that you want to be so you can get the angles that you need. A 9-inch deep strike or even 6-inch for 2 CP might not get the angle that we need. So that's I think is going to be the biggest thing to see if that changes Ret Cadre much, is kind of tamping down on that aggression.
Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, we saw with the GC Bombas, right? Like the GC Bombas gained range to counteract the fact that they can't shoot when they come in at 3.
Yes. Why
Losing Melta
GW
2
just
is
like
not the end of the world, but like what's you can't activate +1 AP unless you literally run toward your opponent in a straight line, which is like kind of
it's
stupid.
so frustrating that this is now 2 balanced patches in a row where GW just forgot Tau existed. Like they had a global nerf that nerfed stuff in Tau, and GW just forgot about. Like Kroot have been like taken out to pasture. They lost both the Trail Shapers redeploy and the revive strat, right? Both of those, and also the 18-inch lone op. All those things have been nerfed Kroot. So Kroot are just like, bleh. And now and then they also had deleted Pure Tide Engram chip from the game. They just forgot about that. And now there was no compensation on this. Like they could have made the stratagem only cost 1 CP and go to 6 inches. Like it would suck, but only 1 CP. Maybe I could use that to get in range for like grenades with internal grenade rack. But or you increase the range of something to 8 inches. That I'm not entirely sure if that'd be okay. But they should have done something. It was kind of frustrating not to have anything happen there. That's why I'm like, really, we might talk about this more with the Grotmist detachments, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what Tau get for a Grotmist detachment because I don't want to play any of the other detachments. No.
Yeah.
In terms of any changes to the list at this point, none. The one thing that I might change, and I saw Cal Grundy of the Pure Tide program talking about this, is it's basically the same list that I just ran. Drop the Ghost Keel, replace it with a Cold Star to go with the Star Scythe unit, change the Star Scythe to burst cannons, and then add another Kroot unit. And I think that's fine. It probably is slightly better because you get a little bit more aggression by having another Cold Star unit, which I like. And the Ghost Keel was, not really that impactful in any of my games because I was so aggressive. His like stand out and do stuff was like didn't really do anything because I was in his face, in my opponent's faces anyway. So the Ghost Keel might actually get dropped.
It's a great tool, right? Like into the right matchups, it's insane. Like you played World Leaders twice, you played Aggro Tyranids, you played Thousand Suns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't seem super bad into Thousand Suns, but like you kind of just ended that game anyway. But like if you played multiple times into Guard and Sisters and maybe Enemy Tau, like if you had a Kalyon matchup, like in those matchups, it's a tool, right? Like it's good in some cases, it's not good in others. In World Leaders, it's kind of dog shit. But
yeah.
Very cool.
As
and how
for
about
me,
you, Lucas? How are we feeling about World Leaders right now?
Yeah, I really liked my list. There's a couple notes. The first thing I want to do is cut Invocatus, like I kind of alluded to at the very beginning of the episode. I just never felt like the scout did much. I think into less skilled players, it can definitely like make them shit their pants and think I'm going to charge them instantly on turn 1 with my whole army because I scout. But like, it's a more defensive world leader list anyway. The Terminators aren't that fast. Taking all the mobility means you don't hit that hard and you aren't that durable. So like, what's the point of scout moves, right? Like, you're taking a 40-point guy to like get to your expansion staging ruin a little bit faster. Whatever. I'd rather melt that guy down and get 10 more jackals and 2 spawn to do actions and screen with, which is a serious deficiency of my list currently. So that's one thing I'm thinking about. But as for like the Terminator character and 8-pound complement, I have no notes at all. The normal 8-pound are insane. Having 19 damage 2 and 3 attacks with high strength, high AP, and lots of reroll access for 140 points is disgusting, especially because they're really fast. I'm going to continue to take 3 of those units unless including some other unit. I've been thinking about like Karn in a Rhino with Berserkers forces me to drop one of those 3, in which case, like, dropping Invocatus and that squad of 3 would just about get me there. So some interesting things to play with, but like the Angron 20 Terminator core for a take all comers type of setting where I'm trying to play in a singles event is really solid. For teams, you can definitely skew a little bit more in one direction or another, but in a general setting, the Terminators are really nice with Angron. So yeah, having a blast. I don't know how long I'm going to continue to play this, though, because there's a lot of cool new stuff coming out, which we're going to start talking about right now.
Yeah.
Or should we do show questions first?
Let's do plugs, let's do show questions, and then let's talk about new stuff. So,
sounds good.
First of all, if you are joining us right now live on YouTube, we really appreciate that. But if you're not and you'd like to be next time, we do stream these podcasts live on YouTube at youtube.com/stat-check periodically, generally on the weekends. In the morning PST, in the evening if you're in Europe, it works out reasonably well. If you'd like to be notified about those, go ahead and hit the notifications bell down on there. If you'd like to keep a conversation going, you can be in the comments down on YouTube where we will be. And if you'd like to keep it going a little bit further, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/stat-check for only $5 a month. You can join the most hip and happening community of 40K on the internet, where we've got faction experts all over the place, lots of great hobbyists, and a whole bunch of fun. If you're looking to take things a step further than that, you can head over to stat-check.com/coaching, where myself, Lucas, Mr. Olson Johnson, Innes, and the rest of them offer a whole bunch of different coaching services ready to help you out one-on-one with your 40K needs. If you'd like to support us, but you don't actually care that much about getting better at Warhammer and would rather buy some cool shit, I cannot blame you. And we do have some cool shit for you to buy. On that website, there is, of course, a bit of merchandise, but we also have our wonderful sponsors down here in the description below. If you are in the northeastern United States or southeastern Canada, check out Red Dragon. Patrons from StatCheck get 20% off the entire store at red-dragon.ca. We also have our sponsors Saltire Games and J15 Games, both on Etsy, with codes StatCheck5 and StatCheck, receiving small discounts respectively. And if you're interested in WTC style terrain, Wayland-Yutani is the official provider of the WTC, and code StatCheck5 will get you 5% off at wayland-yutani-inc.com. All the links, of course, in the description as always. Anyway, one other reason you might want to join that Patreon and give us a little bit of money is that you can get your questions answered live on air. We do always answer all of the super chat questions, as well as all of the questions pitched to us in the Discord. If you're not sure we're in the Discord, go onto the folder of the show, the channel, Take All Questions, and see the threads that get posted there for our various episodes, from which we will now be reading. But if you ask us questions elsewhere, maybe we'll answer them as well. Starting off from Mr. Alex W. himself, Lucas, and to some extent as well Donald, what's your favorite place in Ocean Shores, open after 8 p.m.?
It's the local Domino's down in Hoquiam. So for those not, I'll tell the story in just like 30 seconds here. Basically, what happened last year was my somewhat under the influence was asked to find dinner for everyone because that was a wise choice. And what I did was I went and, just opened up my telephone as you do and looked for local food options. And I was like, oh, Domino's, that sounds great right now. Went to Domino's, started doing an order. I'm like, holy shit, this is going to take 3 hours to get here. What the hell? What's taking so long? And then, I'm going through the whole process. And 30 minutes later, we finally get to the Airbnb. Like, Lucas, what's the food progress? I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to order that. And they're like, where are you ordering from? I'm like, Domino's. And these guys are like, oh shit, man, where's the Domino's? It turns out it's in the Hoquiam, which is the next town over, 30 minutes away. And this is not just a drive on a highway. It's a windy road. It's in the middle of the night. It's on the Washington coast, so it's rainy and dark and foggy.
You might hit a deer.
Exactly. So we had to find other food options.
And they were closed.
They were closed after the second time I opened my phone. Okay. to confirm the order. I just wanted to get your guys' input. Okay, I'm a good friend.
So my answer to this is similar, but better. Dugan's Pizza. I've had every time I've gone to Slaaneshmas now. Good pizza place. We found out last year they don't like it when you order half an hour before they close. So I made sure to order an hour before they close this time. Pick that up for the team Aegis and good stuff there. So,
very nice, Alex. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I also wanted to mention, you're doing the plugs. I actually got some of the stat check mats, which you can get from Red Dragon Games, and we played on those. They were on some of the tables at the event. They're really cool. They have, not only they got the deployment lines and all that stuff in the center, they also have inch marks on the edge, which makes setting up terrain on those really fast. That was fun.
Nice.
My first time pulling those out. Yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. Next question, also from Alex, asks, Donald, how critical was my shrugged shoulders rundown of Ryan's list to your victory?
It was actually super helpful. Weirdly, that just made me feel a lot better about the game. I was like, I'm not quite sure about this. Tyranids are really kind of spooky for me. At Kippers, I lost round 2 into Tyranids. He ended up winning the event, and he had both the Neurotyrant and Neurolictors and Norn Emissaries and stuff. It was none of the things that were in Ryan's list, and so the shrug shoulders help. So thanks for that, Alex.
Excellent. McWhirp asks, Lucas, how much did you miss Captain Badrook, and how happy are you to have him back?
Did not miss him very much. His gun sucked, and the SAG is way better. This detachment is going to be funny.
Hell yeah. And then first question to kick off our discussion of the new stuff from Tim the Weird Boy asks, what is your favorite crazy list idea to come out of the Grotmus Balance slate shakeup? So for those of y'all who are listening in possibly the future, it is currently December 14th. So we are, about halfway through Grotmus here. We have the balanced data slate, which has included a lot of changes. Donald talked earlier about the 3-inch deep strike change. We also got the AOC change. We also got a shakeup to a bunch of different armies. Sisters got thrown off a cliff. Guard made off like absolute bandits. They're still probably one of the best things around. And a couple of other factions got a bunch of little pieces of love. Nid's got some really fun love. GSC got entirely reworked in terms of Cold Ambush and whatnot. And then also
There's
we've
still
seen
probably a 65% win rate.
Yep, they're still insane.
Yeah.
They might be better. The Host of Ascension is not better. They did nerf one of the detachments, but the rest of them not so much. And we've got a bunch of the detachments so far, including the Tyranids detachment, including the Orcs detachment. We do not yet have Tau, but we do have another faction I know that Donald has dabbled in. Lucas, what are you the most excited about right now?
Creations of Bile. Abaddon, 30 possessed, 10 chosen. Hammer Lord, 10 more chosen, 1 car, 10 warp talons, 10 cultists. That's probably 2,200 points.
It's like 2,400. What are you talking about?
It's not. It's probably only 50 points over. So you cult the 10 cultists and you run at your opponent like a man.
Oh yeah, dude.
Do you roll for it every time, or do you take?
So I think that's a genuine question. And I think if there's one thing that's very good in your matchup, like in the Chaos Knights, you probably choose +1 toughness for the possessed. But then again, +1 strength is so good. If you take Bile, you roll 100% of the time. If you're taking Abaddon, I think you roll if it's very clear which one is best. You pick if it's very clear which one is best. But the detachment's pretty interesting. I don't hear people talking about Warp Talons, and I don't know why. They absolutely especially if you're running Bile, so you can kind of fish for the good ones. They love +2 move, +1 strength. They love +1 attack, and they +1 weapon skill is also very good for them. I don't know why you wouldn't run Warp Talons in this detachment. They're insane.
Very cool.
And they have advanced and charge access for 1 CP.
All good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. You want to talk about the actual detachment that you're excited about?
Orcs? Yeah, so I got the Orc detachment today. It's basically Guard with like the most cracked stratagems you've ever seen. Do you want me to do this now or should I wait?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's Guard with the most cracked stratagems you've ever seen. And 3 kind of poopy enhancements and 1 insane one. The biggest news is that the Captain Badrock unit that you knew from the Warhorde Index is back. There's a 35-point enhancement to turn a mech of basically any kind who can join Flash Gits. Let him join them and give them reroll hits. Okay. That's pretty good. And then one of the orders that you get when you disembark from a transport is +1 to hit. So this unit is hitting on 4s, full rerolls, sustained on all the SNAS guns, once per game lethal hits. They get reroll to hit on Overwatch. And then the unit's also very good in melee. Like we know that Flash Gits are not bad in melee. The SAG mech is also has a choppa. And you can order them to be +1 strength as well. So if you really just need to have a damage turn, this unit can walk out. If you're walking, they're strength 7 with 50 attacks plus the big mech's attacks. At AP1, and then they're shooting with +1 to hit and all the rerolls and all that kind of stuff. So that unit's insane. And it also, what happened to Flash Gits when they dropped Badrock was they very intelligently kind of pre-realized that the unit was going to be dog shit at their current points cost because they were pointed with Badrock into account, which is silly. They should never have been pointed that way. Badrock should have been extra points if he was too good. But anyway, they reduced the point cost of Flash Gits to account for that. We're still playing with that reduced point cost for Flash Gits. So you're getting a very cheap Flash Git unit with a somewhat expensive mech, but that really amps their damage. So it's less expensive than the Badrock unit for more damage. It's insane. Other cool things in this attachment, you can basically have army-wide stealth. Doesn't affect any of your vehicles, but there's some durability builds that I could maybe see with spamming Squighog boys to be OC2 and 3 all over the place. Everyone's -1 to hit all the time. One of the big unit winners, I think, is the Beast Boss with Snagga Boys. Because you can, on demand, get lethals or sustained, depending on the target you're going into. It's very easy for that unit to just have the appropriate buff and hit just as hard as they do in Warhorde. But they also have some mobility in the form of reroll charges, some durability in the form of stealth if you really need to. And then if the strength breakpoint matters, you can order them to be +1 strength. Going from strength 5 to 6 is huge for Snaggas. Obviously, you only have 1 turn of the Wa, which kind of stinks, but you can kind of be strength 6 on demand with the order. And situationally, going up to strength 7 really makes you punch up into something like a Big Knight. Or if you're punching into Gravis Marines, you can hand them all of the saves because you're going to strength 7 during the Wa. It's pretty cool. And yes, so those are some of the units that I'm interested in. These stratagems are absolutely insane. I think that probably the best stratagems of any of the Orc detachments by a pretty significant margin. Just a couple of the ones that are really good. There's when an enemy unit falls back, you can just react to move 6 regardless of how far away they land from you, which is absolutely insane. Because it's a move, right? So you can jump into a car with it, which is nuts. There's also...
And it's flat 6 too, isn't it?
Flat 6.
It's flat 6. 1 CP.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can... There's jailing you can do with that. There's staying alive you can do with that. All sorts of cool stuff. You can take objectives from people. Another insane stratagem is fallback and charge. Especially with these big Beast Boss units that I'm considering. Beast Boss plus 20 Snaggas in a Hunter rig is really good. Also in a Battle Wagon is really good just because the Battle Wagon isn't natively very durable. So it kind of allows you to do this fire and fade into the wagon strat pretty easily. Getting fallback and charge on this Beast Boss unit is really nice because he gets dead wounds on the charge, right? And 1 CP he can also get sustained just to really amp up the damage. So that's an insane stratagem as well. There's uppy downy for commandos and storm boys, which is fantastic for late game scoring. Orcs kind of have an issue of they have units all over the place in the first couple turns, but like later on they're kind of just like where they are. So you can just uppy downy your one unit of storm boys that's screening your backfield on turn 4 and score any card, which is insane. Yeah, I think the worst stratagem is like charge mortals for storm boys, which is still really good. For 1 CP, your storm boys can be JPI. It's very good. Grenade and then charge mortal in. I guess that's 2 CP, but CP will be tight in this detachment because, like I'm saying, all the stratagems are insanely good. But it'll be very interesting to kind of see if we can make that work.
I don't know if it's any good, but you can attach a beast boss on Squigosaur or the Death Killer War Trike to commandos.
Oh, I didn't even think about the War Trike.
I don't know if it's good, but it's funny. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna auto advance 6 my commandos turn 1 and just be in your face, +1 to hit.
So,
I don't know.
Here's my take on that. I think if you in my experience, is a very clear divide between. I've talked to lots of people in the orc community that love commandos and swear by them, and a lot of other people that absolutely hate them. I don't think one is particularly. I know I do think one is particularly right. I think commandos are dog shit, and you're an idiot for running them. But if you really like commandos, you should consider that and consider more than just like the Squig boss, because obviously that's funny. But like you could do the beast boss to give them devastating wounds, and you can't overwatch that unit as he goes in, so he can kind of get in there and muck some stuff up, and then that unit demands like instantly nuking it, because if you don't, then that unit's going to fall back and charge, and the beast boss is going to do his devastating wounds.
Why can't you overwatch a beast boss?
Oh, commandos.
You can't overwatch commandos.
Oh, commandos have that rule. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So just think outside the box, because there's a lot of different war bosses you can take in orcs, obviously, and you can join any of them to commandos with that thing. One issue is like that's mega expensive, right? Like the commandos plus war boss is 10 orcs and a war boss for like 220 points or whatever. So like that's why I don't like commandos. But yeah, so there's some play there. I honestly think it's going to be a lot like Flyblown Host, where it's like Flyblown Host is to Plague Company as Tactical Brigade is to Warhorde, right? Like if you're playing, or Bully Boys is to Warhorde, right? If you're playing into a melee matchup, you'd probably much rather be the Indexed Detachment or Bully Boys, because you have fight on death access, you have a lot more damage on the go turns, you have more go turns if you're playing Bully Boys, you just have more gas. But if you're playing into like the kind of techier, slower, grindier games, where your opponent isn't just playing World Leaders or Bile or some very aggro all-in army, you'd probably rather be Tactical Brigade. Obviously, 3 hours in, I don't know how it plays on the tabletop, but it seems to me that the options and the variety of tools you have at your disposal in Tactical Brigade will play better than Warhorde in the general case, but we'll see how that works. Just like Flyblown, right? Like Flyblown is amazing into shooting armies, which Plague Company generally struggles with. I think similarly, Tactical Brigade will be much better into all-rounder and shooting armies, much better than Warhorde was, which didn't really like those armies at all. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Access to army-wide stealth is going to be really important for 2 of those other detachments that are going to be popping up.
Yes.
Yeah. Tyler, are you happy about this new Necron one?
Oh, I don't play Necrons. That's not real.
You don't play Necrons anymore? Oh, okay.
I really love Hypercrypt because I really love 3-inch deep strike, and by 3-inch deep strike I mean negative 2-inch deep strike, and they took away my toy, and I don't want to play with you anymore. No. Star Shatter, I think, is getting kind of wildly overhyped right now. Our testing into it has been middling at best. I was able to fend it off with Vanguard Nids just fine. And that's an army that really struggles in vehicles. Like it just has a very limited set of tools that it can utilize at any given point in time. And Kool-Aid Man is nice on one piece, but like there's a lot of pieces, and if they don't cut angles, those models don't really do anything. So I'm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they're also just like entirely beholden to their 2 auras, which seem very easy to deal with, right? Like I was playing the matchup that we played. Kid had stuck the reroll aura on not a captain, Overlord attached to a brick of Lich Guard, killed the Lich Guard and the Overlord, and like, oh no, Do you want to not ignore mods anymore, or do you like is the king going to give real ones, or are you not going to real ones anymore? Either way, I'm excited. They don't have a lot of trash pieces, right? Like we think of Necrons as a really great trash army because of Hypercrypt, and if you take that away and they just don't arrive after turn 3, like they're not that good at scoring. So we'll see. They're still cracked, and like they're definitely going to run over a lot of mid-table players. But I'm not convinced that Necrons are walking out of December better than they went into in. They're probably worse.
Yep.
But that's that. I am very excited about the new NIDS, though. Oh my gosh. The Warrior Detachment is so much fun. Oh my gosh. If you like Zoanthropes, let me tell you, that is the best fucking Zoanthrope unit I have ever played, and I have played a lot of Zoanthrope units. Giving them +2 strength on that ranged blast attack, so they're 9-2 D3. 9-2 D3.
Yeah.
And then also being able to actually give them ignores cover at a reasonable range because you don't need a goddamn Pyrovore. I hate Pyrovores. I hate them so much. They're in every good Tyranids list, and I refuse to play them because I hate them. So Warriors just being like, oh, no, we ignore cover at infinite range. Great. The Warrior durability, beautiful. Those things are so annoyingly difficult to move. I mean, you guys were talking earlier about how much value a 6-up Feel No Pain can give a unit of 3 wound dudes. 3 wound dudes, 6-up Feel No Pain from a Psychophage, -1 to hit it from the Venom Thropes, cover all the time. And then access to Transnumen. Like, it's just a pain to put those things down. I had a ton of fun with that. I have not been playing very much of it because I've had a bunch of other stuff I have to play, but I want to play more of that detachment. It's a ton of fun. That being said, I don't even think it's the most exciting thing happening in Tyranids right now because that is by far Assimilation Swarm. Assimilation Swarm is so cool. This detachment was ass before this. We do have a stat rep of it actually if you go look in on the YouTube where I played it into Lukas, actually on Fielding Tau. And it was fine. What did you think of Assimilation Swarm after that game, Lukas?
It was definitely fielding some Tyranid data sheets.
Yeah.
I think you used like one assimilation strat the whole game.
Yeah. It was fine. But now it's crazy. And it's crazy for a couple reasons. Number one, and the most important one that people seem to not see because they didn't read the rule the first time, which is fine. The way it used to work was if you were on an objective you controlled with a harvester unit, that harvester unit could do some healing. Great healing, really good ability, but you had to be on an objective that you control with the unit and within like 6 inches of the unit you wanted to heal. Several hoops to jump through, really easy to counterplay, right? Because a lot of these units you want to take are things like Tyrant Guard, because you want the big heavy infantry, because the heal is get a dude back. Just period, get a dude back. So a 4 wound dude, way more value than anything else. But they have low OC, so it's really easy to just contest their objectives, and then they can't do the thing. So they changed it. You don't have to be on an objective at all anymore. Just be within 6 of the harvester unit. Just get dudes back. It's crazy. Really great 8 buff. In addition to that, if you're healing a monster, instead of getting a dude back, because obviously it's a monster, you get D3 +1 wounds back now instead of D3. That +1 may not seem like a big deal, but when you think about how easy it is in this detachment to stack up heals, right? Between killing units, between units dying, between double healing and with the enhancement. Well, you're not double healing a monster, but anyway. Like you can really stack these things up in some pretty clever and interesting ways. That +1 adds up a lot, right? If you heal twice and you go from healing maybe 2 or 3 wounds to suddenly you're healing 5 or 6 or 7, like now we're getting somewhere. So that's great. And then third, the Norn Assimilator finally got the keyword to be an Assimilation Swarm. So the Norn Assimilator is Harvester now, which means that it can do the healing, which is cool, but it can also get the 4-up Feel No Pain stratagem. That thing is thick.
Can he heal himself?
Yep. D3 +1 wounds every turn. He will simply heal himself.
That's awful.
Yeah. Now he can't benefit from the double heal, but because again, that enhancement doesn't work on he can't get enhancement, he's not a character. But anyway, but be prepared for a lot of really fun plays. Assimilation Swarm offers some really clever stuff. First of all, they have one of the best sticky strats in the game because it's either player's command phase. So you can run out with a Pyrovore, hold a midfield objective, flip over to your opponent's turn, and say, all right, well, it's the command phase. I sticky the objective. Anyway,
Wow.
it's gross. And then you combo that with the fact that like those Pyrovores, you can have a guy behind a wall and a guy out of the wall at 80 mil base. You get 2-inch coherency plus 80 millimeters to reach out and touch the objective. You can sticky it, or you can also just die to shooting, have that guy survive, and then respawn his best friend next turn to take it back anyway. Lots of cute stuff to do with that. But also, the ability to heal off of death is just insane. You get things like Spore Mines and Ripper Swarms are really strong in Assimilation Swarm, partially because Ripper Swarms have the keyword, so they can really easily trigger the You Killed Kenny strat. You get +1 to hit and wound, I think, against a unit that kills a Harvester unit for the rest of the game. Ridiculous stratagem when that unit could be a Ripper Swarm that I charged into you for this express purpose. But also then when my units die, I can use that to then heal my other units, right? So I can have a Spore Mine run in, so I can, in my turn, if I have, like, let's say I have a unit of 6 Tyrant Guard with a Neuro Tyrant who has the double heal enhancement, right? And you kill 5 of them. On my turn, I can heal once the normal way, get a Tyrant Guard back, use the enhancement to heal a second time, get another Tyrant Guard back. Oh, this doesn't work on monsters. Maybe I do this on a warrior unit. Anyway, moral of the story is you figured out a way to make this happen. You have 5 guys missing. You can get 2 back from that. Then in my movement phase, I run up, and I also run up with my Spore Mine, who explodes because he gets too close to you. That's a unit of mine dying in the movement phase. I spend a CP, I get a Tyrant Guard back. Then in the charge phase, I charge into with my Tyrant Guard unit and also my Ripper Swarm, or into someone else who's even vaguely killy, because the Ripper Swarm is 4 wounds of T2 with a 6-up save. My Ripper Swarm obviously dies. I spend a CP, I get another guy back. Right? I can just keep getting these dudes over and over again on my turn, on your turn, all over the place, chaining out lots of crazy movement nonsense, because like this is the unit of 6 or 7 dudes on 40s, so like we can go places. You can only bring dudes back closer like once per phase, right? Because if you heal 2 dudes in the same phase, they can't, they have to both be in coherence with someone who started there. But if you're healing over several different phases, you're getting an extra 4 inches of movement every time you do that. You can do some really clever shit. It's a lot of fun. Also, Tyrant Guard got cheaper in the process for no reason. Love that. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with that detachment. That's really cool. And then on top of that, this Admech detachment. Oh, man. I love this thing. I'm starting to pick up Admech largely as a USA decision to cover things a little bit more here, but also because they look like a ton of fun. That detachment is complicated, where you're picking units every turn to be getting additional buffs on top of your battle round buffs that you're picking every turn. And they all do this like death by 1,000 cuts thing, and there's lots of move blocking and little pieces running around and scout moves and tons of reactive moves, great reactive moves. So I'm having a ton of fun with that. I don't know what's good about it yet. I'm still very, very new to the faction, but there's just so much stuff that I want to play right now. And Vanguard got better. God damn it. The removal of 3-inch Deep Strike makes Vanguard just significantly stronger with 6-inch load up, right? You just can't do that to me anymore. It takes away one of the biggest pieces that used to really prevent Vanguard from functioning. So I've been having a ton of fun with them as well. So I am swimming in cool new stuff to play right now. And honestly, I really wish I were back in Portland so I could be playing in-person games basically every day. But you know, the TCS does what it can. So those are some of the things that I'm very excited about right now with some of the changes that are happening. And if you want to chat more about any of them, again, Discord, etc. What about you, Donald? What do you? I know that like Tau haven't gotten a whole lot of love yet, but what's got you excited so far?
I'm kind of in a holding pattern there. I've also picked up Admech. I'm kind of excited about that new detachment and just trying something different. It's does seem pretty cool, and that detachment looks like you can play a lot of different things in it, and so there's a lot to experiment with. I kind of feel like I don't have much to try in Tau. Like I feel like each attachment's kind of solved, and Montcon, Kaoyun, and Kroot kind of suck. Like they force you into a play style. All 4 of their detachments force you into a play style. The Ret Cadre is just a little bit better because it lets you choose when you want to have your go turn, whereas Montcon, Kaoyun really force you to be like, well, be patient or not have your army buff turns 1 and 2, whatnot. I have no clue what the new Tau detachment's going to be. I don't know what they're going to do. If they give us like a Borkan detachment that's like more toughness, like that's garbage. I'm just ready to be disappointed. Not a lot of happiness over here. I don't know, but I am working on my Storm Surge.
Yo!
So I don't know. he's bad, and I'm really pissed off that he's still bad. It's 400 points for a model that is not as good as a Riptide, which is less than half its points. But who knows? Maybe the detachment is Storm Surges get to split fire and regenerate wounds. I don't know. They're garbage, but that's kind of what I'm kind of in a like either that or building Kroot or building AdMech. I am interested in not to start, but to see how it goes. The new Grey Knights detachment seems totally bonkers. Getting
Yes.
full rerolls to hit on all your NDKs because you got some purifiers next to them, and you're still uppy downing all these guys. Seems really good. And it's definitely like it was a difficult match for Tau before with 6 NDKs, and they didn't have reroll hits, and now they have reroll hits, and I'm like, this is awful. Please don't do this. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, I'm curious what that detachment's going to be like, because on the one hand, it feels like Grey Knights were always kind of like the tricksy durability army that you couldn't blow out, but now it feels like they've hard pivoted to the opposite, right? Like the damage has gone through the roof, but also like all of the durability tricks are gone. Or like,
yeah, they don't have
do they have resilience strats at all? They don't have sigil, they don't have mist, they don't have AOC. So like,
right,
you can just go in and fucking kill them.
Yeah, I think that's probably the game plan Tau has into them is just like wait for them to do something and then go kill all the purifiers and then be like, what are you gonna do now with your NDKs that don't get reroll hits? And you're actually only T8 and you don't have any toughness buffs, so like I just kill you with my like regular shooting and my AP1 is still AP1. Like, oh no. It's probably not as good, but it sounds really cool because it's a lot of guns.
Something else that I don't hear people talking about a lot is that without, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong here, Lucas, I know you've played Grey Knights a lot more than I have. Without the detachment, they no longer auto 6 advance and fly.
That's right. That's the detachment rule.
So Dread Knights don't fly anymore, and they move, and they're ranged 18 and 24, and that's it. This army went from impossible to move block to brutally easy to move block in my mind.
Yeah, no 3-inch deep strike as well. Like it's playing. What's the best comparison? Like it's up down, but it's just landing at 9. So if you don't give them a spot to land wholly within 9 of a ruin, they won't shoot you, or maybe they will shoot you, but they'll be at a spot where you can easily kill that Dread Knight next turn. Everyone's like the heads are blowing up over this attachment. Maybe I just haven't played into it yet. I could play into it once and mauled off the face of a cliff. I reserve the right to do that. But like, I don't know. It doesn't seem that insane to me.
Yeah,
Grey Knight damage before was like
we'll see how it goes.
super swingy and not very good. So a little bit of buffs, meaningful buffs to that in exchange for you get to annihilate them at will. Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to whether or not 6 Dread Knights is too much for that. If you're able to weather that firepower for the turn you have to before you can crash. So we'll see what it actually ends up looking like, but I'm very excited to see a different dimension for Grey Knights. I think that they've been a very cool army for a while now, but it's fun to see something a little bit different. Yeah. What other detachments are making? We also got a last minute question right in here from Eric on the Discord. Asks, how do you feel about 10-man Reavers with a Phobos Lieutenant and Blood Angels? 3d6 deep strike, almost 60 lethal hits, attacks at 6/11 before even doing stats, and battle shock and -1 OC feels pretty good. Lucas, I feel like this is directed at you. What do you think about this unit?
3d6 deep strike charge?
Yeah, because I think they get a move after they deep strike. That.
Oh yes, no. What? Yeah, one of them. There's one of the Phobos dudes who's like gets to.
He shoots and then moves, but you can still charge.
Yeah. So that's how you do it. I mean, it's good. Reavers in general are really good, especially Blood Angels. Yeah, I won't complain. Lennon was talking about this on one of their streams recently, but I think all of the Phobos units now have good play, where the infiltrators are still good. I mean, people still deep strike, right? Like the removal of 3-inch from the game People are still going to be arriving at 9. People are still going to try to arrive at 6. Just holding onto your backfield is still good. Incursors are also very good, and Reavers as well. They both have Scout 6. The Reavers are marginally better in combat. The Incursors have a good buff for your shooting, where you can basically hand out +1 to hit with the rifles when they shoot something. The one bummer is like the unit instantly dies when it exposes to give that +1 to hit because it's 5 Space Marines. But if you really need to have a go turn where you have more than just like, you kill the Oath target and you're like, well, the rest of my shooting kind of sucks, you can just apply +1 to hit to something with the Incursors. So both of those Phobos units are good. The Reavers I like a little bit more in this setting, like Eric says here, where you can kind of like stack up a couple buffs on them with the Lieutenant. Yeah, we'll kind of have to see where it goes, especially in Blood Angels, who kind of struggle right now with like big brick syndrome, where they've got like 2 or 3 massive units and then maybe like a couple tanks and then everything else is nothing. Having like a more low investment unit that's a little bit more disposable, I think will be really nice.
Very cool. Anything else in the new world that you guys are excited about that we've seen so far? Lucas, I know you've been playing the Chaos Knights attachment a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think, unfortunately, the best build will... the detachment unequivocally does give buffs to Big Knights. The problem is, like, they're just still not good. A lot of the data sheets are just kind of dog shit. And it doesn't buff the resilience at all, right? Like, in fact, the resilience got worse because you can't, like, emergency rotate. You can't get a feel no pain in melee. Like, you just get completely clobbered when you get shot or punched. But it is nice to have the lethal or sus on Big Knights, and even more so for knights like Lancer. Having access to fallback and charge and advance and charge for 1 CP is a game changer. Like people have bemoaned this attachment for losing Knights of Shade for the longest time. And yeah, that's a big blow to the War Dogs. But holy shit, advance and shoot, fallback and shoot, advance and charge, fallback and charge for 1 CP is insane. It fixes one of the biggest issues with CK is that they're very plan aroundable, right? Like if your opponent just like measures how far your Carnivore Brigand can move and then either puts something in the way or stands far enough, like you can't do anything about that. Now all of a sudden you add like an extra factor of randomness into the equation that they have to account for. A lot of the board edges are also like, there's not a ton of boards, even on WTC, where there's a ruin right up against the edge of the board. So like ingressing a Carnivore is even better than it was before, because now you can ingress and then advance and charge for another CP. Whereas before it was like, you're probably not using Knights of Shade on that Carnivore. He probably is a straight shot charge anyway. So I really like that. Obviously, Brigands with lethal or sustained based on the target you're shooting is insanely good. So I think the list I'm playing right now is like 2 squads of 20 cultists with firebrands to be batteries, 10 cultists to screen my home field. I have a Lancer with the Scout enhancement. I don't know whether or not giving Scout to your 2 bricks of 20 is worth it. I have to kind of play around and see. If I can find 35 points, giving her a 6 of Feel No Pain seems insane to me. So we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, Lancer, and then like 4 or 5 Brigands, 1 or 2 Carnivores, and then basically whatever the combination of Cheap Dog fits in at that point. There's another build I have that has like 4 Brigands, 4 Carnivores. That might honestly be pretty good. So yeah, ultimately the best build will probably be a bunch of War Dogs. It sucks, but it is what it is. Without fundamental datasheet changes, I think it's going to be very hard to push Big Knights to be playable. So yeah. I am eager for the Codex.
Cool.
Anything else catch your eye, Donald?
Nope.
No.
Waiting with bated breath. Next event I'm going to is LVO. I'm going to be taking Tau. See if I can just be aggressive, shoot my opponents off the field, see how that goes.
Hell yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Do you think you're still with the 3-inch deep strike changes? Do you think you're still so old hard down the Ret Cadre train, or do you think that your newfound aggression might interest you in some action?
So the 3-inch deep strike is the 3rd best thing in Ret Cadre. The best thing is Uppy Downy Enforcer. The 2nd best thing is Torchstar Gambit, and I still have those. And those are what makes the detachment fun. Torchstar Gambit is why I play that detachment, and it's why I have fun playing it. Having that extra movement is so... It's like being able to charge. it's pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll still be playing that. I'm thinking I'm going to an RTT next weekend, and I might take Montka and that Storm Surge, because scouting a Storm Surge and then auto advancing it 6 turn 1 sounds fun.
Oh yeah, dude. I love me a good Storm Surge. Awesome. Sweet. Well, that's kind of some of our fresh takes on the world to come. We'll be back in a little while to talk about something else exciting. Lucas, do you have any other events coming up between now and the future? What's up next for you?
Unfortunately not. I mean, I've got Guardian GT in January, but really what I'm angling for next is whipping the boys into shape for our 5-man team event in February, which I think a lot of folks down here are coming down to. So that'll be very fun. That's local as well. Tanner and Nick are on our team, so we'll see if I'm able to prevent them from doing something stupid or dropping from the event, or both.
Oh yeah, man. We're looking forward to that. We'll find some other fun stuff to put out some content about. I'm sure we can film some nonsense over the winter holiday here with maybe some new detachments or whatnot. But looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Donald, for joining us here. It's been a pleasure to have you on board. Congratulations again on your big win. Anything you wanna plug here? Anywhere that people should be checking stuff out other than Aegis in general?
Nope, I get nothing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Once again, this has been episode 21 of Take All Comers, a Crisis Carol. I've been Tyler.
I've been Donald.
Oh, let's go, dude. He's on it. I'm Lucas.
Hey. And we will catch you all next time for some other kind of nonsense. Happy Christmas, everyone. Spend some time with your families, play some Warhammer. And we'll see you sometime, maybe in the new year. Maybe we'll get one more in December. Doesn't matter. Have a good one, y'all. Take care.